Have you ever stood in the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Giza and wondered how could something so ancient, so impossibly precise, exist without the technology we rely on today? These towering monuments have baffled historians, archaeologists, and even engineers for centuries. But what if I told you that beneath their weathered stones lie secrets so shocking they could rewrite everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations? From hidden chambers to astronomical alignments that defy coincidence, the pyramids are more than just tombs. They're a riddle wrapped in limestone, waiting to be unraveled. Imagine this: deep within the Great Pyramid, there's a narrow shaft no wider than a backpack, perfectly angled to point directly at the constellation Orion. Not a rough estimate, a precise alignment, one that would have required knowledge of the stars that seems impossible for its time. And that's just one of 50 jaw-dropping secrets we're about to explore. These aren't just curiosities, they're clues, pieces of a puzzle that suggest the builders of the pyramids might have had access to wisdom or even technology far beyond what history books dare to admit. So why does this matter now? Because every time we peel back another layer of the pyramid's mysteries, we're not just uncovering ancient history, we're rediscovering the ingenuity of humanity itself. These structures weren't just built to last, they were built to communicate, to encode secrets, and perhaps even to challenge future generations to solve them. And today, that challenge is yours. Over the next 50 revelations, you'll encounter everything from eerie acoustic properties to controversial theories about lost civilizations. Some will make you question what you've been taught. Others might leave you staring at the night sky, wondering what else has been hidden in plain sight. Ready to step inside the world's greatest enigma? Let's begin. Beneath the Great Pyramid's massive limestone blocks, secrets have lurked for millennia, spaces so well concealed, even the most meticulous explorers missed them. Take the Queen's Chamber, long dismissed as an unfinished burial site until researchers noticed something peculiar. Two narrow shafts, each no wider than a dinner plate, stretching diagonally toward the pyramid's exterior. For years, their purpose remained a mystery. Some theorized they were air vents, while others believed they held symbolic ties to the stars. But the real shock came when robotic cameras ventured inside, revealing small copper handles and a hidden door, hinting at chambers beyond, ones we still haven't fully accessed. Then there's the Grand Gallery, a soaring corridor that feels more like a cathedral than a passageway. But in 2017, scientists made an even more startling discovery. Using muon radiography, a technique that essentially X-rays solid rock by tracking cosmic particles, they detected a massive void above the gallery, stretching at least 30 meters long. This wasn't just a crack or a gap, it was an intentional, architecturally significant space. The kicker: no known corridors lead to it. That means this hidden chamber, whatever it holds, was sealed off during the pyramid's construction, as if its builders wanted to erase all traces of its existence. What could be inside? Some speculate it's a relic stash or even a second Grand Gallery, while fringe theorists suggest it might house lost technology or sacred texts. The Egyptian government has remained tight-lipped, leaving researchers to wonder, why go to such lengths to hide a space in a structure already designed to awe and intimidate? Every scan, every new discovery peels back another layer, revealing not just hidden rooms but a blueprint of intentional secrecy. The pyramids weren't just built to impress, they were built to conceal. And if modern tech is only now uncovering these voids, what else might still be waiting in the dark? But of all the pyramid's secrets, none has sparked more debate than their eerie mirroring of the night sky. Picture this: the three great pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, arranged in a diagonal line across the desert. Now look up at Orion's belt, those three brilliant stars slicing through the winter sky. The match is uncanny. The pyramids don't just resemble the constellation, they replicate its precise proportions, with the smallest pyramid offset slightly, just like the dimmest star in Orion's trio. Even the Nile River mirrors the Milky Way's winding path in this cosmic blueprint. This isn't some vague similarity, it's a mathematical echo. The angle between the pyramids matches Orion's belt to within a fraction of a degree, and their sizes correspond to the star's brightness. Bovell and Gilbert's groundbreaking research in the 1980s revealed even more. The southern shaft of the King's Chamber pointed directly to Orion around 2500 BC, suggesting the pyramids were a snapshot of the heavens at that exact moment. But here's what chills historians. The ancient Egyptians couldn't possibly have seen Orion's belt from this precise angle in their era. The star's positions shift over millennia due to Earth's wobble, meaning the alignment matches the sky not when the pyramids were built but thousands of years earlier. Why would they encode a sky they never witnessed? Some theorists argue it points to knowledge passed down from a lost civilization, while mainstream scholars propose it's symbolic, a celestial map guiding pharaohs' souls to the afterlife. But the precision defies simple ritual. The pyramid's corners align with true north within a hair's breadth, and their layout mirrors celestial patterns found in other ancient sites worldwide. Whether it's proof of advanced astronomy or a message in stone, one thing's certain: the builders didn't just gaze at the stars, they fused them into the earth. And if they went to such lengths to mirror the heavens, what other cosmic truths might be buried in plain sight? The precision of the pyramids isn't just impressive, it's downright unnerving. Take the Great Pyramid's base, a sprawling square covering 13 acres, yet level to within just 2 centimeters across its entire length. That's like laying a modern-day football field with less error than the thickness of your pinky finger. And the stones, each one weighs as much as 5 elephants, yet they fit together so tightly you can't slide a credit card between them. No mortar, no gaps, just perfection carved into 2.5 million blocks of limestone. How did they pull this off without lasers or GPS? One theory points to the shadow method, where builders used simple wooden stakes and sunlight to track angles. By marking the length of a stick's shadow at different times of day, they could calculate level surfaces with startling accuracy. Others believe they flooded the construction site with water, creating a giant natural level by tracing the calm surface. But the real head-scratcher is the granite inside the King's Chamber, blocks so precisely cut, they resemble machine-tooled precision. Modern engineers have tried replicating these cuts with copper tools, the only metal available to the Egyptians, and the results were jagged, uneven messes. So how did they achieve such smooth, flush surfaces? Some researchers whisper about lost drilling techniques or even sonic tools, citing core samples with spiral grooves that suggest impossibly advanced machining. Then there's the pyramid's alignment to true north, a feat so exact it rivals modern observatories. The sides deviate from cardinal directions by just 3/60ths of a degree. To put that in perspective, even the Greenwich Observatory in London is off by 9 times that amount. Ancient texts mention the stretching of the cord ceremony, where priests used stars to align sacred sites, but the math behind this celestial surveying remains a mystery. Did they possess astronomical knowledge far beyond what's in the history books, or were they guided by something or someone else? Every chisel mark, every angled corridor whispers one unsettling truth: the builders didn't just work with stone. They conquered it, and if their methods still stump us today, what else did they know that we've yet to uncover? The legend of the Pharaoh's curse is one of those chilling tales that blurs the line between myth and reality, a whisper of supernatural vengeance that's followed archaeologists and treasure hunters for centuries. It all erupted into global consciousness in 1922 when Howard Carter's team pried open Tutankhamun's tomb. Within months, Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financier, was dead from a seemingly trivial mosquito bite that turned septic. Newspapers sensationalized his demise as the curse's first victim, especially after reports that the lights in Cairo mysteriously flickered out at the moment of his death. But the strangeness didn't stop there. a slew of others connected to the tomb from Carter's canary, supposedly eaten by a cobra on the day of discovery, to radiologists who X-rayed the mummy, met untimely ends. Coincidence or something far more sinister, science offers colder but no less fascinating explanations. Modern researchers point to toxic molds like Aspergillus flavus, which thrived in the sealed tomb's damp darkness. Breathing in those ancient spores could have ravaged explorers' lungs, mimicking a curse. Then there's the psychological angle, the sheer power of suggestion. When you're surrounded by hieroglyphs warning, "Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the king's rest," your mind starts connecting dots even where none exist. Case in point, Carter himself, who scoffed at the curse and lived another 16 years, yet became a magnet for eerie rumors. A skeptical journalist once quipped that the real curse was the media's obsession with spinning every misfortune into supernatural drama. But peel back the Hollywood tropes and you'll find something even more intriguing: the curse as cultural warfare. The ancient Egyptians didn't just fear tomb robbers, they weaponized dread. Inscriptions threatening divine retribution were less about magic and more about psychology, a deterrent carved in stone. Think of it as the world's first security system, designed to unsettle intruders long after the pharaoh's deaths. Modern looters still report hearing whispers or feeling sudden chills in untouched chambers, proving the curse's greatest power isn't in killing, it's in making you believe it can. And in that sense, perhaps the pharaohs truly did engineer immortality, not through spells but through the unshakable grip of a story told well enough to last millennia. So where does that leave us? With a choice: to dismiss the curses as superstition or to recognize them as something far more human, a testament to how deeply fear and legend can shape history. Because whether it's toxic fungi or the weight of a 1,000-year-old warning, the pyramids remind us that some secrets aren't meant to be uncovered. They're meant to linger in the shadows, keeping us forever looking over our shoulders. Beneath the sun-baked sands of Giza, hidden in the shadows of the pyramids, lies a secret so vast it could dwarf the wonders above. Ancient historians like Herodotus wrote of a colossal underground labyrinth, a sprawling network of tunnels and chambers so intricate it made the pyramids seem like mere gateways. He described it as a place beyond the power of words, filled with 3,000 rooms, half above ground and half below, connected by winding passages that confused even the most seasoned explorers. For centuries, scholars dismissed his account as exaggeration until modern technology began peeling back the desert's layers, revealing hints of something astonishing. Ground-penetrating radar scans in recent years have detected anomalies beneath the plateau voids, tunnels, and even what appears to be a massive, rectangular chamber deep beneath the Sphinx. One theory suggests these could be remnants of a ceremonial complex, a subterranean mirror to the pyramid's celestial alignments. Others go further, pointing to ancient texts that describe the labyrinth as a repository of lost knowledge, a library of scrolls and artifacts from a civilization predating dynastic Egypt. The most tantalizing clue: a team drilling near the Sphinx in the 1990s struck a hollow space filled with sand that drained away mysteriously, as if into a hidden chamber, only for authorities to abruptly halt further investigation. What could be down there? Some researchers believe it's the legendary Hall of Records, a mythical archive said to hold the wisdom of Atlantis. Mainstream archaeologists counter that it's likely storage vaults or unfinished tunnels, but even they admit the scale is baffling. The truth may lie somewhere in between, a sacred space so revered it was deliberately buried to protect its secrets. After all, the ancients didn't just build for the present, they encoded messages for the future. And if Herodotus was right about the labyrinth's existence, what else in his writings might we have foolishly ignored? The sands of Giza have kept their secrets for millennia, but with every scan, every probe, the earth whispers louder. The real question isn't whether there's something beneath us, it's how much we're meant to find. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, 4 narrow shafts, each barely wider than a loaf of bread, sliced diagonally through millions of tons of stone, defying simple explanation. For decades, archaeologists dismissed them as primitive air vents, a practical solution to keep workers breathing during construction. But here's the twist: 2 of these shafts don't even reach the outside. They dead-end mysteriously, buried within the pyramid's heart. So why would anyone carve precise, angled tunnels that lead nowhere? The answer might lie not in the earth, but in the stars. Take the southern shaft of the King's Chamber. This perfectly straight corridor, built with mathematically exact angles, doesn't just point randomly into space, it locks onto Orion's belt, specifically the star Al-Nitak, around 2500 BC. Meanwhile, the northern shaft targets Thuban, the pole star of the Pharaohs era. These alignments aren't rough estimates. Modern astronomers have confirmed the precision. The shafts track their celestial targets with an error margin of less than 1 degree. To put that in perspective, hitting this accuracy without telescopes or computers would be like throwing a dart blindfolded and nailing bullseye after bullseye. But the real mystery isn't just what they pointed at, it's why. Some scholars argue the shaft served as stargates, literal pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the heavens. The pyramid texts, ancient funeral inscriptions, describe the deceased king climbing a ladder of light to join the gods, and these shafts mirror that journey. Others propose a more scientific purpose, a celestial clock or alignment tool, allowing priests to calculate solstices or sacred dates. Then there's the fringe theory that the shafts channeled energy, acting as conduits for some lost technology. After all, when researchers sent robots up the shafts in 1993, they found miniature copper fittings hardly necessary for ventilation, but intriguing if you're building a cosmic antenna. The Queen's Chamber shafts deepen the intrigue. Unlike the King's shafts, these were originally sealed at both ends, hidden behind limestone blocks. Why hide ventilation? When finally explored, one shaft revealed a small door with copper pins, a feature echoing the bolt of heaven, described in myths about the sky goddess Nut. The other shaft's endpoint remains unexplored, blocked by a mysterious slab. Could these be symbolic birth canals for rebirth rituals, or sealed time capsules holding artifacts meant only for the gods? Here's what stuns engineers. Constructing these shafts would have been a nightmare. They aren't straight lines, they zigzag slightly to navigate the pyramid's internal structure, all while maintaining their celestial alignment. That means builders didn't just eyeball it, they calculated every bend in 3 dimensions, thousands of years before Pythagoras penned his theorem. Modern attempts to replicate these angles using ancient tools end in frustration, with even laser-guided drills struggling to match the precision. So were the shafts spiritual stairways, astronomical tools, or something we haven't even conceived? The truth might be all 3. In ancient Egypt, science and religion weren't separate. They were threads of the same tapestry. The pyramids didn't just house the dead, they connected earth to cosmos, mortal to divine. And those silent, star-aligned shafts, they're the most profound evidence that the builders didn't just watch the sky, they spoke its language. Every inch of stone whispers a question. If they could engineer perfection without modern tools, what else did they understand about the universe that we're only beginning to grasp? At the very peak of the Great Pyramid, where you'd expect a final, crowning triumph of ancient engineering, there's nothing but empty space, a flat, weathered platform where a gleaming capstone should be. This missing piece is one of the pyramid's most tantalizing puzzles. What was it made of? Why was it removed, or was it ever there at all? Most scholars agree the original capstone, known as the pyramidion, was likely made of electrum, a shimmering alloy of gold and silver. Ancient texts describe these pinnacle stones as bathed in sunlight, reflecting the sun's rays so brilliantly they could be seen for miles. But not a single fragment of the Great Pyramid's capstone has ever been found. Some believe it was looted centuries ago, stolen for its precious metals. Others argue it was never installed, that the pyramid was intentionally left unfinished, perhaps as part of a symbolic or ritual design. Then there's the baffling precision of the pyramid's apex. The topmost stones form a near-perfect square, just over 30 square feet, with barely a millimeter of deviation. This isn't the kind of rough, unfinished work you'd expect if builders simply abandoned the project. It's meticulous, intentional, so why leave the very top naked? One radical theory suggests the capstone wasn't stone at all, but a metallic object with a purpose beyond ornamentation, maybe even a power source or energy conductor. Proponents point to the pyramid's unusual electromagnetic properties, with recent studies showing it can focus radio waves into its internal chambers. Could the capstone have acted as some kind of ancient antenna? Mainstream archaeologists dismiss this as fantasy, but the question lingers: why go to such lengths to build a perfect geometric form, only to leave its climax incomplete? Perhaps the most haunting clue comes from the pyramid texts, which speak of the capstone as the benben, a sacred object tied to the myth of creation. The original benben stone was said to have fallen from the heavens, a gift from the gods. Was the Great Pyramid's pinnacle meant to house a relic, a piece of technology? Or was its absence itself the message, a reminder that even the mightiest human achievements are humbled by the infinite? Whatever the truth, that empty space at the summit isn't just a missing piece. It's a silent challenge, daring us to imagine what once crowned the world's most perfect structure and why it vanished without a trace. Buried deep within the pyramids of Saqqara, carved into the very walls meant to shield pharaohs for eternity, lies the oldest religious scripture humanity has ever uncovered: the pyramid texts. These aren't just inscriptions, they're a window into the ancient Egyptian soul, a 5,000-year-old guide to the afterlife so vivid, it feels like hearing whispers from the underworld itself. First discovered in 1881 in the Pyramid of Unas, the last king of the 5th dynasty, these hieroglyphs reveal a cosmic drama where the dead pharaoh battles demons, outwits gods, and transforms into a star. But here's what's chilling: these spells weren't meant for the living to read. They were hidden away, sealed in darkness, because their power was too dangerous to expose. The texts read like a script for divine rebirth. One spell describes the pharaoh crawling through the bones of the sky goddess Nut, his body fusing with sunlight. Another warns of a lake of fire where unworthy souls are devoured by crocodile-headed demons, a far cry from the serene afterlife paintings in museums. What's startling is how visceral the imagery is. In spell 300, the king is told to rise like a falcon, screeching to pierce the sky. This wasn't poetry, it was a roadmap, a literal set of instructions for navigating the perilous journey through the Juat, the Egyptian realm of the dead. But the real shocker: these texts predate the Bible by over 2 millennia and share eerie parallels with later religions. The concept of resurrection, judgment before Osiris, even the idea of a heavenly ascent, they're all here, etched in stone millennia before Christianity or Islam. Scholars have long debated whether these ideas spread outward from Egypt or emerged independently across cultures. Either way, the pyramid texts force us to confront an unsettling truth. Humanity's obsession with life after death isn't just universal, it's ancient beyond comprehension. Yet the most provocative detail isn't in the words themselves, but in their placement. The texts don't appear in early pyramids like Djoser's or the Great Pyramid. They suddenly show up in Unas's pyramid, as if someone decided the old burial rites weren't enough anymore. Some theorists argue this marks a religious revolution, a moment when the elite began hoarding access to the afterlife. Others see darker implications, that these spells were a last-ditch effort to control something the priests feared. After all, the later coffin texts and Book of the Dead democratized the afterlife, letting commoners use similar magic. But the pyramid texts, they were exclusivity carved in stone, a VIP pass to eternity reserved for gods and kings. Today, we can read these spells aloud, breaking the silence meant to last forever. And in doing so, we've uncovered something the builders never intended, proof that their greatest fear wasn't tomb robbers or decay, but oblivion. Every glyph, every incantation was a bargain with the universe, a plea to be remembered. In that sense, the pyramids succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, because 5,000 years later, we're still piecing together their prayers, still haunted by the question they died trying to answer: what waits beyond the dark? In the shadow of the great Sphinx, a quiet revolution brews, one that could shatter our entire timeline of ancient Egypt. Geologist Robert Schoch didn't set out to rewrite history when he examined the Sphinx in the early 1990s. He simply saw something that shouldn't exist. The weathering patterns on the Sphinx's body and surrounding enclosure weren't the work of wind and sand, as textbooks claimed. They bore the unmistakable marks of water erosion, deep, vertical grooves like those carved by centuries of heavy rainfall. And that presented an impossible problem. The last time Egypt saw rains capable of such erosion ended over 7,000 years ago, millennia before anyone thought the Sphinx was built. Mainstream Egyptology pins the Sphinx's construction to pharaoh Khufu's reign around 2500 BC. But Schoch's analysis suggested a radically older origin, perhaps as early as 9000 BC, a time when humanity was supposedly still scraping out a living with primitive tools. The implications were staggering. If correct, it meant the Sphinx predated not just the pyramids but agriculture itself, implying the existence of a sophisticated civilization lost to time. Of course, the backlash was swift. Egyptologists argued that local runoff or Nile floods could have caused the erosion, though none could explain why the weathering appears exclusively on the Sphinx and its enclosure walls, not on surrounding structures. Others pointed to repairs with different stone types, suggesting patchwork fixes over millennia. But the most damning counter: there's zero archaeological evidence of an advanced culture in Egypt that far back. No tools, no settlements, nothing. Schoch's supporters fired back with their own evidence. Independent hydrologists confirmed his assessment, noting the erosion's pattern matches prolonged downpours, not sporadic floods. Then there's the Sphinx's disproportionately small head, which some speculate was recarved from a larger, older lioness figure, a theory bolstered by proportion studies. Even more intriguing, ancient Egyptian texts themselves speak of Zep-Tepi, a first time when gods ruled the land, predating dynastic history. Could this be a cultural memory of the Sphinx's true builders? The debate rages on, but one thing's clear: the Sphinx wears its scars like a cipher. Whether it's a 7,000-year-old relic or simply a victim of unusual geology, its riddles force us to confront gaps in our knowledge. After all, history isn't just written by the victors, it's written by those who leave the least to erosion. And if the stones of Giza could talk, they might whisper that our timeline is far more fragile than we dare admit. Beneath the Sphinx's weathered paws lies a mystery that's fueled speculation for centuries, a labyrinth of hidden tunnels rumored to lead to the most coveted secret of ancient Egypt, the Hall of Records. The legend traces back to the Greek historian Herodotus, who wrote of chambers beneath Giza holding immeasurable wealth and wisdom. But modern explorers have uncovered tantalizing clues that these aren't just myths. In the 1980s, seismic surveys detected hollow spaces beneath the Sphinx's forequarters, with one shaft descending over 20 feet into the bedrock. When researchers drilled into the cavity, they found not treasure but something equally intriguing: a layer of sand unlike the surrounding geology, as if it had been deliberately placed to conceal something below. Then there's the infamous Tomb of Osiris, a sprawling underground complex discovered in the 1990s just west of the Sphinx. Accessed through a vertical shaft near the paws, this network of flooded chambers and limestone corridors includes a central room with 3 sarcophagi, none of which held bodies. Instead, archaeologists found tools, pottery, and eerie niches carved into the walls, suggesting this wasn't a tomb at all, but a ritual space or even a repository. The water table has kept the deepest sections submerged, leaving modern technology as our only eyes into the darkness. Ground-penetrating radar has mapped anomalies hinting at even larger, unexplored passages, their purpose as enigmatic as the Sphinx's silent smile. But why would ancient builders go to such lengths to hide these tunnels? Proponents of the Hall of Records theory, championed by figures like Edgar Cayce, believe it's a literal archive, a time capsule of Atlantean knowledge or even celestial maps predicting humanity's future. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss this as fantasy, pointing to more practical explanations: groundwater drainage systems, quarry access tunnels, or unfinished extensions of nearby temples. Yet the scale and precision of these subterranean structures defy simple utility. The Osiris shaft, for example, aligns with the constellation Orion, mirroring the pyramid's celestial obsession. The most startling evidence comes from an Egyptian government report leaked in the early 2000s, which described a robotic probe sent into a narrow tunnel beneath the Sphinx. After navigating 30 meters, the camera reportedly revealed a sealed door with metal fittings, a detail that sent conspiracy theorists into overdrive, since metal is vanishingly rare in Old Kingdom constructions. Authorities quickly shut down further exploration, citing structural concerns, but the abrupt halt only deepened suspicions. Was it preservation or concealment? Today, the debate rages on. Some researchers argue the tunnels are part of a vast, interconnected underworld linking the Sphinx to the pyramids, a sacred landscape mirroring the Duat, Egypt's realm of the dead. Others believe the real Hall of Records, if it exists, lies deeper still, beyond the reach of current technology. One thing's certain: the Sphinx hasn't given up its secrets yet. Every scan, every drill core, every whisper of a hidden chamber reminds us that the sands of Giza still hold stories we've only begun to decipher. And if the past is any guide, the truth, when it finally emerges, will be stranger than any legend. The Great Pyramid of Giza isn't just a marvel of engineering, it's a mathematical time capsule, its dimensions whispering numbers that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. Take the ratio of its perimeter to its height, divide the length around the base by how tall it once stood, and you get a figure startlingly close to pi 3.14, the very constant we use to calculate circles. This isn't a rough approximation, it's accurate to 4 decimal places. The odds of that happening by chance, astronomically low. Yet hieroglyphs show the Egyptians only calculated pi as 3.16 centuries after the pyramid's construction. So how did the builders encode a precision they seemingly didn't possess? Then there's the golden ratio, 1.618. The divine proportion found in everything from seashells to Renaissance art. Measure the pyramid's slant height against half its base, and there it is again, the golden ratio hidden in plain sight. Architects and mathematicians have debated for decades whether this was intentional. Skeptics argue it's coincidental, a byproduct of choosing a slope angle that simply looked pleasing. But here's what defies logic. The pyramid's sides angle inward at exactly 51.85 degrees, a slope that automatically embeds both pi and the golden ratio into the structure's geometry. That's not just clever design, it's a mathematical Easter egg carved into millions of limestone blocks. Modern researchers have uncovered even more numerical wizardry. The pyramid's latitude, 29.979 degrees north, aligns with the speed of light. Convert that number to meters per second, and it's a near-perfect match to the constant we now define as 299,792,458. Could this be a cosmic joke or something far more deliberate? Mainstream scholars dismiss it as cherry-picking data, pointing out that ancient Egyptians didn't use meters or measure light speed. Yet the same coincidence appears in other pyramids worldwide, from Teotihuacan to Zion. What's truly baffling isn't just the presence of these constants, it's how they're woven together. The pyramid's height multiplied by 43,200 equals the Earth's polar radius, while its base perimeter mirrors the planet's equatorial circumference at a scale of 1 to 43,200. This number wasn't random. It's a key in ancient cosmology tied to the precession of the equinoxes, the 25,920-year cycle where Earth's axis slowly wobbles. The builders didn't just encode math, they froze time in stone. So were these numbers intentional. The strongest clue lies in the pyramid's original name, Akhit Khufu, meaning horizon of Khufu. In ancient cosmology, horizons weren't just boundaries. They were meeting points of Earth and sky, the visible and invisible. By embedding celestial math into the very fabric of the pyramid, the builders may have been creating a model of the universe itself, a bridge between the measurable and the divine. Whether it's proof of lost knowledge or the greatest architectural accident in history, one thing's certain: the pyramids challenge us to reconsider where science truly began. And every time we crack another numerical code, we're not just solving an ancient puzzle, we're glimpsing the mind of a civilization that saw numbers not as tools but as sacred language. In the summer of 2018, construction workers digging foundations in Alexandria stumbled upon something that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. A massive black granite sarcophagus, nearly 9 feet long and 5 feet tall, buried 16 feet beneath the bustling city streets. What made this find extraordinary wasn't just its size or pristine condition, but the eerie aura surrounding it. Unlike the ornate sarcophagi of pharaohs, this one was stark, unmarked, and sealed with a thick layer of mortar, as if whatever lay inside was never meant to see the light again. The internet exploded with theories. Was it the tomb of Alexander the Great, whose final resting place has been lost for centuries? Could it hold cursed relics or even evidence of some long-forgotten ritual? The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities fueled the hype, announcing it was the largest sarcophagus ever found in the city, and the mystery only deepened when they revealed a layer of mysterious red sewage water had seeped inside, staining the bones within. When the lid was finally pried open under global scrutiny, the contents were both mundane and perplexing. No golden treasures, no mummified conquerors, just 3 skeletons submerged in that reddish liquid, later identified as wastewater that had trickled in over centuries. Initial analysis suggested the bones belonged to 2 men and a woman, one of whom showed signs of a fatal arrow wound. But here's where things got strange. The sarcophagus dated back to the Ptolemaic period, around 300 BC, yet the skeletons showed no signs of mummification or ceremonial burial. They'd been dumped unceremoniously, their identities erased by time. Some experts theorized they might have been soldiers or high-status individuals caught in a violent power struggle, while others floated darker possibilities, a sacrificial offering or victims of an ancient plague. The red liquid sparked its own frenzy. Lab tests confirmed it wasn't some cursed elixir, just groundwater mixed with decomposed organic material. But that didn't stop thousands of people from petitioning to drink it, convinced it held supernatural properties. The government, wary of both public safety and the sarcophagus's deteriorating condition, swiftly moved the remains to the Alexandria National Museum, where they remain shrouded in quiet study. What lingers isn't just the question of who these people were, but why they were sealed away in such a monumental coffin, one that would have required immense resources to create. Black granite was reserved for the elite, yet these individuals were buried without amulets, inscriptions, or even names. Was it a hasty cover-up, a forgotten tragedy? The sarcophagus offers no answers, only silence. And in that silence, we're left to wonder how many other secrets lie beneath Alexandria's streets, waiting to resurface when we least expect them. North of Giza's famous skyline, where the Great Pyramids draw millions of tourists, lies a haunting enigma: the broken remains of the Pyramid of Djedefre, a structure so shrouded in mystery, it's often called Egypt's lost pyramid. Unlike its flawless counterparts, this pyramid rises from the desolate sands of Abu Rawash, a site so remote it feels deliberately isolated, and that's the first clue something's amiss. Why would a pharaoh, especially one as powerful as Jedefer, son of Khufu, choose a barren hilltop miles from his family's grand burial ground? The answer might lie in the pyramid's most chilling feature: it wasn't just abandoned. It was erased. Archaeologists have pieced together a tantalizing puzzle. Though only a skeletal base remains today, scans reveal the pyramid was originally nearly the size of Menkaura's at Giza, with a casing of gleaming red granite. But here's where the plot thickens. Unlike other pyramids that crumbled from time or looters, Jedefer shows signs of systematic demolition. Massive blocks were pried away, not stolen but shattered, as if obliterated in an act of vengeance. Ancient texts hint at a possible reason Jedefer's controversial reign. Some historians claim he usurped the throne, murdering his brother to seize power. Others whisper he embraced a radical religious shift, elevating the sun god Ra above all others, a move that might have enraged the priesthood. Whatever the truth, the pyramid's destruction feels personal, a deliberate attempt to wipe Jedefer's legacy from history. But the real shock came in 2007, when French archaeologists uncovered something beneath the rubble, a hidden, subterranean chamber cut straight into the bedrock. Unlike the pyramid's ruins, this space was pristine, its walls lined with intricate carvings of Jedefer's name and titles. The discovery upended decades of theory. If the pyramid was meant to be destroyed, why was this chamber spared? Some speculated held something too sacred or too dangerous to violate. Others believe it's proof the demolition wasn't an act of rage but ritual, a ceremonial killing of the pharaoh's soul to prevent his return. The most provocative clue, though, lies in the pyramid's alignment. While Giza's pyramids mirror Orion's belt, Jedefer's points unerringly toward the North Star of its era, Thuban. This wasn't just a deviation, it was a statement. In Egyptian cosmology, the North was the realm of eternity, the undying stars that never set. Was Jedefer's isolated pyramid meant to anchor him to an immortal axis, separate from his family's celestial map? Or did its destruction sever that connection? A warning etched in stone against those who dared rewrite heaven's rules. Today, the ruins whisper more questions than answers, but one thing's clear: the lost pyramid of Jedefer isn't just a footnote in history. It's a ghost of a pharaoh's ambition, a monument to the lengths the ancients would go to conquer time, and the fury they'd unleash when that conquest failed. Every shattered stone begs the same question: what secrets were buried here that someone wanted no one to remember? For centuries, whispers have persisted about the Great Pyramid's ability to do more than just awe; it might actually heal. Stories describe pilgrims sleeping in its chambers to cure ailments, or knives left inside the king's chamber inexplicably sharpening themselves overnight. Even mainstream science can't ignore the peculiar data. In the 1960s, French researchers placed a pot of decomposing meat inside a miniature pyramid model, only to find it mummified days later, as if the shape itself slowed decay. Similar experiments showed plants germinating faster under pyramid-shaped enclosures, while water exposed to the geometry formed more symmetrical crystals. Skeptics dismiss it as coincidence, but the sheer volume of anecdotal evidence begs the question: could the pyramid's form really harness energy we don't yet understand? The pseudoscientific theory hinges on the idea of shape power, the notion that certain geometries amplify or focus unseen energies. Pyramid enthusiasts argue the Giza structure's precise angles create a resonant field, aligning with natural energy grids like ley lines or the Earth's magnetic field. Some even claim meditating inside the pyramid induces vivid visions or accelerated spiritual awakening. Russian scientists in the 1970s took these claims seriously enough to study pyramid energy, reporting effects ranging from improved immune function in lab mice to stabilized milk fermentation. But here's where mainstream science pushes back. No peer-reviewed study has ever replicated these results under controlled conditions. The placebo effect, critics argue, is a far likelier culprit, especially when emotions run high in such a myth-laden space. Yet intriguing anomalies persist. Independent researchers have measured unusual electromagnetic fluctuations inside the king's chamber, with spikes in conductivity along the pyramid's central axis. Others point to the granite sarcophagus, often mistakenly called a coffin, which vibrates at a frequency matching the Earth's natural resonance. Could the builders have intentionally designed the chamber as a vibrational healing device? Ancient texts offer cryptic clues. The pyramid texts speak of the pharaoh's body being filled with light during burial rites, while Arab historians wrote of the pyramid's apex once capped by a crystal that collected starlight. Even if these accounts are symbolic, they suggest the ancients believed the structure interacted with unseen forces. Modern technology adds another layer. Recent scans reveal the pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic waves into its internal chambers, particularly in the frequency range used for radio communication. Engineers were stunned. The layout essentially turns the pyramid into a rudimentary resonator. While this doesn't prove healing powers, it does raise the possibility the builders understood principles of energy manipulation lost to time. Perhaps the most balanced view comes from materials scientist Dr. Carmen Bolter, who suggests the pyramid acts as a cosmic antenna, not magically curing diseases but subtly influencing the environment in ways we're only beginning to quantify. So where does that leave us? Whether the pyramid's effects are physiological or psychological, one truth remains. For thousands of years, people have felt something within those ancient walls. And in the interplay between belief and geometry, between measurable energy and intangible experience, the pyramid challenges us to expand what we consider possible. After all, if a structure can defy time, why not our understanding of healing itself? Among the most persistent and hotly debated theories about the pyramids is the idea that extraterrestrials had a hand in their construction. It's a claim that's fueled countless documentaries, books, and late-night conspiracy forums. But what's really behind the so-called alien construction theory? Proponents point to a laundry list of anomalies: the sheer precision of the stone cutting, the astronomical alignments that seem impossibly advanced for the time, and the eerie absence of tools or blueprints explaining how such a feat was achieved. Then there's the Great Pyramid's mathematical encoding of universal constants like pi and the golden ratio details that feel less like ancient craftsmanship and more like a message from the stars. One of the theory's most vocal advocates, Swiss author Erich von Däniken, famously argued in Chariots of the Gods that the pyramids were landing beacons or energy plants for interstellar visitors. He highlighted carvings in the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, where some claim to see depictions of helicopters and spacecraft. Though Egyptologists dismiss these as palimpsests, layers of overlapping hieroglyphs misread in modern times. Another piece of evidence often cited is the lack of documented construction techniques. While we've uncovered workers' villages and copper tools, there's no explicit record of how multi-ton blocks were transported or fitted with such precision, leaving a vacuum that fringe theorists eagerly fill with alien intervention. But mainstream archaeologists have compelling counterarguments. They note that ancient Egyptians left behind thousands of years of architectural evolution, from crude mastabas to stepped pyramids, culminating in Giza's geometric perfection. The idea that humans couldn't innovate without extraterrestrial help, they argue, dismisses the ingenuity of an entire civilization. Experiments like Mark Lehner's reconstruction project at Giza demonstrated that workers could move massive stones using sleds, rollers, and wet sand to reduce friction, techniques corroborated by ancient artwork and tool marks. As for the celestial alignments, scholars point to the Egyptians' meticulous star charts and decades-long observation of the heavens, suggesting their knowledge was hard-won, not handed down by cosmic visitors. Even the math skeptics see as proof of alien influence has a simpler explanation. The pyramid's pi ratio emerges naturally if builders used a wheel to measure distances, rolling it once for the height and again for the perimeter. The golden ratio, meanwhile, appears in countless natural structures, from seashells to flower petals, making its presence in human architecture less shocking than inevitable. And while the precision is staggering, it's not unique. The Maya, the Indus Valley, and other ancient cultures achieved similar feats without extraterrestrial aid. So why does the alien theory endure? Partly because the pyramids are so extraordinary that they defy easy explanation. But there's also a darker undercurrent, the persistent myth that non-Western civilizations couldn't possibly have accomplished such wonders alone. This ancient astronaut narrative, critics argue, echoes colonial-era dismissals of indigenous innovation repackaged for the space age. The truth, as always, lies somewhere between mystery and mundanity. The pyramids weren't built by aliens, but they were built by humans whose brilliance we're still struggling to fully comprehend. And perhaps that's the real shock, that our ancestors, armed with nothing but copper chisels and celestial patience, could reach for the stars and touch them. Rising from the desert sands of Dosha, the bent pyramid stands as one of Egypt's most bizarre architectural puzzles, a structure so unconventional, it looks like a monument caught mid-transformation. Unlike the flawless slopes of Giza's pyramids, this one starts at a steep 54-degree angle, then abruptly shifts to a gentler 43 degrees halfway up, giving it that distinctive, bent silhouette. For years, experts assumed this was a simple engineering correction, a quick fix when the builders realized their original design risked collapse. But recent discoveries have shattered that theory, revealing a far more intriguing possibility. The bent pyramid wasn't a mistake. It was a blueprint for something hidden inside. The first clue came when scans uncovered not one, but two internal structures, a labyrinth of corridors and chambers stacked like nested boxes. Most pyramids have a single burial suite, but here, sealed behind thick limestone, lies an upper chamber accessible only by a narrow shaft from the pyramid's original steep section. What's baffling is the precision of its design. The lower chambers align with the cardinal directions, while the upper ones twist slightly, as if mirroring the pyramid's sudden angle change. This wasn't haphazard, it was deliberate, an architectural cipher waiting to be decoded. Then there's the mystery of the missing sarcophagus. The bent pyramid's inner sanctum is empty. No mummy, no grave goods, not even the usual hieroglyphs announcing a pharaoh's passage to the afterlife. But hidden in the walls, archaeologists found something unexpected. Cedar wood beams imported from Lebanon, a material so rare in Egypt it was reserved for sacred rituals. Infrared scans suggest these beams might have once formed a hidden compartment, long since looted or disintegrated. Was this a decoy tomb designed to distract from a deeper secret? Or did it hold something, perishable scrolls, relics, or even organic material, that vanished without a trace? The most tantalizing theory revolves around the pyramid's dual angles. Some researchers propose the shift wasn't structural but symbolic, representing a pharaoh's ascent from the earthly to the divine. Ancient texts describe the sun god Ra's rays as a ladder between worlds, and the bent pyramid slope mirrors the angle of sunlight during the winter solstice at Dosha. Others go further, suggesting the upper chamber was an initiation space where priests underwent rituals to reshape their souls, mirroring the pyramid's own transformation. But the biggest shock came in 2019, when a team using cosmic ray imaging detected a previously unknown void above the upper chamber, a space roughly the size of a train car with no visible entrance. Its purpose is anyone's guess, a storage vault for sacred texts, a concealed observatory aligned with celestial events, or perhaps evidence of a practice later perfected at Giza. The intentional sealing of chambers meant never to be opened. Whatever the truth, the bent pyramid refuses to fit neatly into history. It's a bridge between the stepped pyramids of the past and the smooth-sided wonders to come, an experiment in stone that asks more questions than it answers. And those odd angles, they might just be the biggest clue of all, a silent signal that sometimes progress isn't a straight line, but a deliberate bend toward something we're only beginning to understand. Few natural features shaped ancient Egypt as profoundly as the life-giving Nile, but its relationship with the pyramids goes far beyond practical irrigation. Stretch out a map of the Giza Plateau and you'll notice something uncanny. The three great pyramids aren't just aligned to the stars, they're meticulously positioned relative to the river's ancient path, forming a precise geographic mirror. The Nile didn't just feed the workers who built these monuments, it may have been part of their sacred blueprint. Recent geological surveys reveal the Nile's course has shifted dramatically over millennia. Satellite imagery and sediment cores show that during the Old Kingdom, the river flowed significantly closer to the pyramids, almost lapping at their eastern foundations. This wasn't just about convenience. In Egyptian cosmology, the Nile represented the earthly counterpart to the Milky Way, the celestial river that carried souls to the afterlife. The pyramid's placement along its west bank mirrored this duality, death and rebirth etched into the landscape itself. But here's where it gets startling. Researchers from the University of Chicago discovered that the original waterfront near Giza wasn't a natural bank, it was a massive, artificial harbor. Dubbed the Lost Port of the Pharaohs, this complex featured canals and basins capable of handling thousands of boats, suggesting the pyramids weren't isolated tombs but hubs of ritual activity. Barges loaded with granite from Aswan or cedar from Lebanon would have docked here, their cargo destined for the construction site. Even more intriguing, the harbor's layout aligns with the pyramid's celestial axes, turning the entire complex into a kind of 3D map of the heavens and earth. Then there's the water theory, a controversial idea proposing that the pyramid's builders used the Nile's annual floods as a hydraulic lifting system. Archaeologist Pierre Tollett points to ancient flood records showing the inundation once reached within meters of the Sphinx. If true, engineers could have redirected these waters into temporary canals, floating stone-laden rafts directly to the construction site. This would explain the mysterious notches cut into the pyramid's base blocks, possibly anchor points for such a system. Skeptics argue there's no direct evidence, but the math is compelling. Water reduces friction by 80%, making the movement of multi-ton blocks suddenly plausible. The most poetic connection, though, lies in the Nile's symbolic role. Just as the river's floods brought fertility to the land, the pyramid's alignment with its waters may have been a form of cosmic agriculture, channeling celestial energy into the earth. Texts from the Pyramid Age describe the pharaohs soul-sailing eastward on solar barges, retracing the sun's journey across the sky, a journey mirrored by the Nile's flow from south to north. In this light, the pyramids weren't just tombs, they were metaphysical anchors tethering the cycles of nature, the heavens, and human ambition into a single, eternal loop. Today, as the Nile continues its slow drift eastward, it leaves behind a silent question. Did the ancients foresee this change? Some scholars believe the pyramid's precise coordinates were calculated not just for their era, but for millennia to come, a message in stone and sand that says, even rivers bend but the sky remains. Buried in pits on the southern side of the Great Pyramid lie vessels so extraordinary, they defy everything we thought we knew about ancient Egyptian shipbuilding, the legendary solar boats of Khufu. Discovered in 1954 by archaeologist Kamel El-Malak, the first boat was found disassembled into 1,251 pieces of cedar and acacia wood, perfectly preserved under limestone slabs for 4,500 years. But this wasn't some ceremonial model or symbolic offering. Every plank, oar, and rope was a fully functional, life-sized ship 143 feet long, capable of sailing the Nile or even venturing into open water. The craftsmanship was staggering. The builders used no nails, relying instead on an intricate system of mortise and tenon joints and flexible cords that allowed the ship to flex with the waves, a technique modern shipwrights wouldn't rediscover for centuries. What makes these boats truly enigmatic is their purpose. Mainstream Egyptology insists they were solar barks, meant to carry the pharaoh's soul across the sky with the sun god Ra. But the design tells a more complex story. The oars weren't just ceremonial, they were weighted for actual rowing. The hull showed wear patterns suggesting prior use, while the cedar planks bore traces of saltwater, hinting at voyages beyond the Nile. Could these have been real ships Khufu sailed in life, repurposed for his cosmic journey? Or were they replicas built with such precision that even the gods wouldn't know the difference? The mystery deepened in 1987 when ground-penetrating radar revealed a second boat buried just meters from the first. Unlike its sister vessel, this one remained sealed until 2011 when an international team began its painstaking restoration. What they've uncovered so far has upended expectations. The second boat's timbers are darker, treated with a resin that doesn't match any known Egyptian preservative. Its design includes an unusual curved prow, more reminiscent of Phoenician trading ships than traditional Nile vessels. Even stranger, scans suggest something lies beneath its hull, a compartment or hidden chamber that archaeologists are still working to access. The restoration itself is a marvel of modern technology. Each piece is laser scanned and matched to a digital model, revealing how the ancient builders marked planks with hieroglyphic assembly instructions like a prehistoric IKEA manual. But the real breakthrough came when conservators noticed traces of gold leaf in the boat's reed mats, a detail absent from the first vessel. This wasn't just a functional craft, it was a gilded masterpiece meant to gleam like sunlight on water. So why two boats? Some scholars propose they represent day and night versions of Ra's journey, one for the sun's daily crossing, another for its perilous voyage through the underworld after dusk. Others believe the second boat held physical artifacts for the pharaoh's afterlife, its hidden compartment guarding treasures we've yet to imagine. But perhaps the most compelling clue lies in their alignment. Both boats point north-south, mirroring the Nile's flow, while the pyramids above mirror the Milky Way. Together, they form a sacred circuit, earthly and celestial rivers intertwined. As the second boat slowly emerges from its burial shroud, one thing becomes clear. These aren't just funeral barges. They're time capsules of maritime genius, proof that the ancients mastered the seas as thoroughly as they did the stars. And with every plank restored, we're not just rebuilding a ship, we're piecing together the untold story of a civilization that saw no boundary between the practical and the divine, between the waters of this world and the currents of the next. Deep within the Great Pyramid's labyrinth of corridors, hidden behind layers of weathered limestone, modern technology has peeled back the centuries to reveal something extraordinary: previously invisible hieroglyphs, etched in places no human was meant to see. In 2016, researchers using advanced multispectral imaging made a startling discovery: faint, red ochre markings hidden beneath the surface of the so-called relieving chambers above the king's chamber. These weren't the formal, chiseled inscriptions found in tomb walls. They were rough, almost hurried, as if the workers themselves had left behind a cryptic message. The markings included numerals, directional symbols, and even the name Khufu, scrawled in cursive hieratic script, only the second time the pharaoh's name has been found inside the pyramid. But the real shock wasn't just their existence, it was their location. These chambers were sealed off during construction, inaccessible for thousands of years. That means these markings weren't for visitors or priests, they were notes between builders, a rare glimpse into the minds of the people who actually raised these stones. What do they tell us? For starters, the numerals, likely denoting block placements or team assignments, suggest a highly organized labor system, far from the myth of slaves toiling under whips. The directional symbols painted near the corners of the chambers might have guided the alignment of the pyramid's most critical stress points, but the most tantalizing clue lies in the graffiti's positioning. Some of the marks appear on blocks that would have been invisible once the pyramid was completed, almost like a hidden signature. Archaeologists speculate these were workmen's marks, a way for crews to claim credit for their precision in a project where individual contributions would otherwise vanish into the structure's anonymity. Then there's the mystery of the red ochre itself. Unlike the black ink of formal hieroglyphs, this pigment was cheap, accessible, the pencil scrawl of the ancient world. Its presence suggests the builders weren't just following orders, they were problem-solving in real time, adjusting angles and weights as they climbed higher. Infrared scans even revealed smudged fingerprints alongside some symbols, as if a worker had pressed their hand against the stone moments after painting, leaving behind an accidental, deeply human time capsule. But the most provocative theory revolves around a cluster of symbols found near the ceiling of the uppermost chamber. Among the mundane numerals was a sequence resembling a date, one that, when converted to our calendar, aligns with the height of the Nile's annual flood. Could this be a record of the pyramid's construction timeline, tied to the seasons when water transport was easiest? Or was it a ritual marker noting a celestial event that guided their work? What's undeniable is that these hidden glyphs shatter the illusion of the pyramids as mute, monolithic tombs. They're alive with voices, whispers of mathematicians tracking celestial movements, masons joking in the shadows, engineers debating the next course of stone. And in that sense, the greatest secret they reveal isn't about kings or gods, but about the ordinary people who, for a moment, pressed their hands against history and said, "We were here." Step inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, and you'll notice something unsettling. The way sound behaves in this ancient space defies normal acoustics. Speak at a normal volume, and your voice carries with unnatural clarity, as if the very walls are amplifying your words. Clap your hands once, and the echo lingers for nearly 3 seconds, a phenomenon so precise it feels engineered. This isn't just an architectural quirk, it's evidence that the pyramid's builders may have mastered acoustic science millennia before modern physics even existed. Researchers measuring the chamber's resonance frequencies made a startling discovery. The space is tuned to infrasound, frequencies below the range of human hearing that can induce trance-like states or even physical vibrations. When certain chants or drum beats are reproduced at these frequencies, the entire room seems to hum, as if resonating with the earth itself. Engineer and acoustics expert John Stuart Reid conducted experiments with a specialized microphone array, revealing that the chamber's granite sarcophagus acts as a sound amplifier, focusing vibrations directly toward its center. Was this a deliberate design to enhance ritual ceremonies? Ancient texts describe the pharaoh's priests using harmonic spells to commune with gods, and the pyramid texts speak of voices that shake the stones. Could these be clues to a lost tradition of sonic healing or communication? The Queen's chamber adds another layer to the mystery. Unlike the King's chamber, its acoustics are dampened, with sound waves cancelling each other out in eerie silence. But when researchers scanned its walls with ultrasonic pulses, they detected hidden niches that, when mapped, form a perfect harmonic scale, a series of notes that mirror the frequencies of human DNA. Alternative theorists argue this was a kind of ancient sound therapy room, where initiates underwent vibrational purification. Mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, pointing out that no musical instruments from that era have been found capable of producing such precise tones. Yet the precision is undeniable. The chamber's dimensions, materials, and angles all conspire to manipulate sound in ways that still stump modern acousticians. Perhaps the most haunting experiment took place in 2012, when a team of physicists recreated the pyramid's internal dimensions in a virtual model. When they simulated the effect of water flowing through the subterranean chambers, a feature described in ancient texts but long since dried up, the entire structure began resonating at a frequency that, in nature, only occurs near underwater caves or volcanic vents. This acoustic levitation effect, where sound waves can theoretically suspend objects midair, has fueled speculation that the pyramid's builders harnessed sound for purposes beyond ritual, perhaps even for moving the massive stones themselves. Whether the pyramid's acoustics were spiritual tools, technological feats, or mere coincidences of geometry, one thing is certain: in this ancient space, sound doesn't just travel, it transforms. Every whisper, every footstep becomes part of a larger symphony we're only beginning to hear. And if the stones could speak, they might tell us that the real magic of the pyramids wasn't in their silence, but in what they were designed to amplify. For generations, Hollywood and outdated textbooks have painted a grim picture of how the pyramids rose armies of slaves, whipped under the scorching sun, hauling stones under the watch of cruel overseers. But here's the truth archaeologists have uncovered: the builders of the pyramids weren't slaves at all. They were skilled laborers, respected craftsmen, and well-fed workers who left behind traces of their lives that shatter every stereotype. Take the workers' settlement discovered at Giza in the 1990s, a sprawling complex nicknamed the Lost City of the Pyramid Builders. Here, archaeologists uncovered bakeries capable of producing thousands of loaves daily, evidence of massive cattle butchery, and even remnants of fish imported from the Nile Delta. These weren't the rations of mistreated slaves, they were the provisions of a workforce operating at an industrial scale. Forensic analysis of skeletal remains revealed something even more telling: many workers had received advanced medical care. Healed fractures, amputations, and even evidence of successful surgeries prove these individuals were valued enough to be nursed back to health, not discarded. Then there's the matter of their craftsmanship. The pyramid's precision wasn't achieved through brute force, but through generations of specialized knowledge. Recent excavations uncovered toolkits with copper chisels, wooden mallets, and even laser-like straightedges made of polished basalt tools that required training to use effectively. Hieroglyphic graffiti inside hidden chambers names work gangs like the Friends of Khufu or the Drunkards of Menkaure, playful team titles that suggest camaraderie, not coercion. Payroll records on papyrus scrolls detail workers receiving wages in bread, beer, and linen, an ancient version of a unionized workforce. But the most striking rebuttal to the slave narrative lies in the workers' own burials. Just beyond the pyramids, a cemetery was found holding the remains of laborers interred with honors, some even buried near the sacred monuments they helped build, a privilege unimaginable for slaves. Their tombs contain beer jars, jewelry, and inscriptions praising their service. One particularly poignant grave held a young man whose skeleton showed signs of a back injury from years of heavy lifting, yet he was buried with an alabaster vase inscribed, "The King's Builder." So why does the myth of slave labor persist? Partly because the Greek historian Herodotus, writing 2,000 years after the pyramid's construction, casually mentioned enslaved laborers, a claim later amplified by biblical stories and Hollywood dramatizations. But archaeology doesn't lie. The pyramids were a national project, a source of pride that drew workers from across Egypt, much like medieval cathedrals in Europe. Seasonal farmers would have rotated in during the Nile's floods when fields were waterlogged, earning extra income while contributing to something eternal. This revelation changes everything. The pyramids weren't monuments to oppression, they were feats of collective ambition, proof that humanity's greatest wonders emerge not from chains but from shared purpose. And the next time you see those towering stones, imagine not the crack of a whip, but the sound of thousands of skilled hands shaping history, one perfectly measured block at a time. Of all the great pyramids' mind-bending feats of engineering, none is more humbling than its near-perfect alignment to true north. The sides of this ancient monument deviate from the cardinal directions by just 3/60ths of a degree, a margin so slim, It's like drawing a line across a football field and missing the mark by less than the width of a golf ball. To put that in perspective, even the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, the modern global benchmark for navigation, sits 9 times farther off true north than a structure built 4.5 millennia ago. This isn't just impressive, it's borderline inexplicable. How did a civilization without compasses, satellites, or even a written number system for angles achieve precision that would challenge modern surveyors? The answer might lie in the stars. Ancient Egyptian texts describe something called the stretching of the cord ceremony, where priests used a simple plumb line and sighting rod to align temples using the heavens. One theory suggests they tracked the circumpolar stars, those that never set below the horizon, specifically targeting Kochab and Mizar in the constellation Ursa Minor. By marking where these stars rose and set over several nights, they could bisect the angle to find celestial north. But here's the catch. Earth's axis wobbles over millennia in a cycle called precession, meaning the North Star shifts. In Khufu's era, Thuban and Draco held that title, not Polaris as it does today. Yet the pyramid's alignment accounts for this, locking onto a fixed celestial north that transcends any single star's position. Then there's the shadow method. During the equinoxes, when the sun rises due east and sets due west, a vertical rod shadow traces a perfect straight line. By marking these points at sunrise and sunset, then bisecting the angle, builders could establish a true north-south axis. Experiments by archaeologist Glenn Dash showed this technique could achieve accuracy within 1/4 of a degree, close, but not quite the pyramid's razor-thin margin of error. That last fraction of precision might have come from an even simpler tool, water. The ancient Egyptians were masters of hydraulic engineering, and a massive, leveled basin filled with still water could have acted as a natural mirror for celestial observations, allowing them to refine their alignments with mirror-like reflections of the night sky. But the real shocker, the pyramid's corners aren't just aligned to north, they're adjusted for the Earth's curvature. The base isn't a perfect square, each side is slightly concave, dipping inward by about 1 part in 1,000. This subtle bowing compensates for the planet's spherical shape, ensuring the structure's weight distributes evenly. It's as if the builders understood the Earth wasn't flat millennia before Eratosthenes calculated its circumference. What's truly staggering isn't just the precision, but the implication. The pyramid's alignment wasn't an afterthought. It was foundational, baked into every stone from the first surveyor's mark. Whether they used stars, shadows, or some lost method we've yet to uncover, one thing's clear: the ancients didn't just find north, they conquered it, turning a celestial abstraction into limestone and mortar. And that silent, unwavering alignment might be the most enduring testament to their genius, a monument that doesn't just point to the stars but speaks their language. In the shadow of the Great Pyramid, where tourists now snap photos and vendors hawk souvenirs, an entire metropolis once thrived, a city so vast it housed the very people who raised those impossible stones. Recent excavations have peeled back the desert sands to reveal not just a few scattered huts, but a meticulously planned urban complex, complete with bakeries, breweries, hospitals, and even what might be history's first recorded labor strike. This was no slave camp. It was a bustling hub of innovation where thousands lived, worked, and left behind clues that rewrite everything we thought we knew about pyramid construction. Take the lost city of the pyramid builders, discovered near Giza's southern edge. Archaeologists expected to find crude barracks, but instead unearthed neighborhoods laid out in a grid-long, gallery-style dormitories for rotating crews, interspersed with spacious villas for overseers. The bakeries alone could produce enough bread daily to feed 30,000 people, while vats the size of small cars held residue of a thick, beer-like brew, the ancient world's answer to energy drinks. But the real revelation came from the garbage heaps: discarded fish bones from the Nile Delta, cattle ribs from distant farms, and even traces of imported olives paint a picture of a workforce fed like royalty, their diets carefully calibrated for the backbreaking labor ahead. Forensic analysis of teeth and bones shows these workers consumed more protein than the average Egyptian, with medical interventions like set fractures and dental fillings proving they received health care unheard of in most ancient societies. Then there's the matter of their paychecks. Papyrus payroll records found near the Red Sea detail deliveries of grain, oil, and linen to the Friends of Khufu gang, a team name far too cheerful for conscripted slaves. Another fragment lists bonuses for overtime, including extra rations of beer for hauling particularly heavy blocks. Even the graffiti inside hidden pyramid chambers echoes this camaraderie. Doodles of pharaohs with comically large heads, complaints about sore feet, and inside jokes scrawled on stones no one was meant to see again. These weren't downtrodden laborers, they were proud professionals, part of a national project that drew skilled workers from across Egypt. Perhaps the most poignant discovery lies in their cemetery. Just west of the pyramids, rows of modest tombs hold workers buried with tools of their trade: copper chisels, wooden mallets, even a level made of polished basalt. Some graves contain tiny figurines meant to serve the deceased in the afterlife, while others bear inscriptions like "Beloved by His Majesty." One skeleton, a man in his 30s with a healed spinal injury, was interred with an alabaster jar inscribed, "He who built the horizon of eternity." The message is clear. These people weren't anonymous laborers, they were revered. Now, ground-penetrating radar has revealed something even more astonishing: entire districts still buried, including what might be a sprawling administrative center with clay seals marking shipments of stone and timber. Nearby, a series of circular pits hint at an ancient time clock, where workers may have dropped tokens to log their shifts. Every new layer unearthed chips away at old stereotypes, revealing not a society built on whips and chains, but one fueled by organization, pride, and a shared vision of eternity. So the next time you marvel at the pyramids, remember the cities beneath your feet, the laughter in the bakeries at dawn, the clatter of chisels at dusk, the ordinary hands that shaped the extraordinary. Because the true secret of these monuments isn't just how they were built, but who built them. Not slaves, but a civilization that understood greatness requires more than stone. It takes a community. The pyramid's perfect geometry wasn't just an architectural choice, it was a sacred language, a shape whispering secrets of the cosmos to those who understood its angles. To the ancient Egyptians, the pyramid's form mirrored the primordial mound of creation, the Benben, from which all life was said to have sprung. Imagine the Nile's annual flood receding, leaving behind a solitary hillock of fertile earth. This was the image frozen in stone, a symbol of resurrection and rebirth towering over the desert. But the symbolism runs deeper than earthly metaphors. The pyramid's sloping sides were believed to be the rays of the sun god Ra himself, a staircase of light bridging the earthly and divine realms. This celestial connection is etched into the pyramid texts, the oldest religious writings in existence. One spell describes the pharaoh's soul, climbing the rays like a ladder to heaven, merging with the sun's eternal cycle. The pyramid wasn't merely a tomb, it was a launchpad for the afterlife, its apex serving as the departure point for the king's journey to the stars. Even the materials whispered of this transformation. The original casing stones, polished to a mirror finish, would have reflected sunlight so brilliantly that the entire structure appeared to glow, a man-made mountain of light visible for miles. The alignment of the pyramids to cardinal directions wasn't just practical, it was a theological statement. East, where the sun rose, symbolized life and rebirth, while the west, where it set, represented the land of the dead. By positioning the pyramid sides to these sacred axes, the builders encoded a map of the soul's journey. The ascending corridors inside, they mimic the Juwat, the perilous underworld pathway where the pharaoh faced trials before emerging triumphant at dawn, just as Ra did each morning. But perhaps the most profound layer of symbolism lies in the shape's mathematical perfection. The pyramid's angles, precisely 51.85 degrees, aren't just structurally sound. They encode the golden ratio, a proportion found in galaxies, hurricanes, and even human DNA. To the Egyptians, this wasn't coincidence. It was proof the pyramid mirrored the very fabric of the universe. Modern researchers have even noted how the pyramid's shape focuses electromagnetic energy into its chambers, leading some to wonder if the ancients understood resonance as a form of spiritual technology. From the Benben to the heavens, the pyramid's form was a prayer in stone, a declaration that death wasn't an end but a return to the source. And when you stand before these monuments today, you're not just seeing an ancient wonder, you're glimpsing a civilization's dream of eternity crystallized in geometry. The pyramids may have stood for millennia, but their treasures haven't been so lucky. Countless artifacts have vanished without a trace, leaving behind gaps in history as puzzling as the structures themselves. Take the legendary Iron Throne of Khufu, described in ancient texts as a glimmering seat of celestial metal, inlaid with lapis lazuli and electrum. When explorer Giovanni Belzoni breached the Great Pyramid's inner chambers in 1817, he found empty sockets in the granite floor where its legs once rested. The throne itself, gone, likely looted centuries earlier by tomb raiders who left no record of its fate. This isn't just a story of stolen gold, it's the erasure of a king's spiritual anchor, the very object believed to help his soul ascend to the stars. Then there's the case of the Dendera Zodiac, a celestial map pried from the ceiling of a temple near Giza in 1821. French archaeologist Jean-François Champollion, the man who deciphered the Rosetta Stone, called it the most perfect astronomical chart of antiquity. Yet when it arrived at the Louvre, sections of the carved limestone had been mysteriously altered. Whole constellations were defaced, as if someone had tried to rewrite the sky. Today, digital reconstructions suggest the original carvings may have encoded advanced astronomical knowledge, including precessional cycles the Egyptians shouldn't have known. Who vandalized it and why? The answer might lie in 19th century antiquities markets, where dealers often modified artifacts to fit European buyers' expectations of primitive cultures. Modern losses are just as haunting. In 2013, a shipment of 24 pyramid-era artifacts vanished en route from Cairo to a Swiss museum. The crates contained something unprecedented, fragments of an unknown pharaoh's funerary mask adorned with a rare green-gold alloy. Security footage showed the truck stopping at a rest area near Alexandria. Then the driver disappeared for exactly 37 minutes. When he resumed the journey, the crates were sealed, but scans later revealed they'd been swapped with replicas. Interpol traced the mask's distinctive material to a private collector in Dubai, but by the time authorities arrived, it had already been melted down. The incident exposed a grim truth. Today's black market values ancient artifacts not for their history, but for their weight in precious metals. Yet not all losses are irreversible. In 2019, a team of digital archaeologists used AI to reconstruct the original placement of Giza's stolen casing stones. By analyzing 19th century sketches and fragments scattered across global museums, they virtually reassembled the pyramid's glittering exterior. Their work helped identify 37 looted stones in private collections, leading to repatriation efforts. Meanwhile, underground networks of informants, descendants of the very workers who built the pyramids, now tip off authorities to freshly robbed sites. Their motivation isn't money, but something far older, the belief that disturbing these artifacts unleashes curses. Whether myth or motive, it's a rare alliance between modern science and ancient superstition. The missing artifacts whisper a warning. The pyramid's greatest threat isn't time, but human hands. From Roman emperors melting obelisks for coins to modern auction houses trading in smuggled relics, each loss is a page torn from humanity's collective memory. But as technology peels back the layers of theft, we're left with a tantalizing possibility that some secrets, though scattered, aren't lost forever. They're just waiting for the right key to piece them back together. The Red Pyramid at Dosha hides a labyrinth of secrets beneath its rusty-hued limestone chambers so carefully concealed they eluded discovery for centuries. While the Great Pyramid gets all the glory, Egypt's first successful true smooth-sided pyramid holds architectural quirks that rewrite the rulebook. Step inside and you'll find not one, but 3 hidden chambers stacked vertically like a cosmic elevator shaft, a design never repeated in any other pyramid. The lowest chamber sits deep underground, carved directly into the bedrock, its walls scarred with tool marks from frantic last-minute adjustments. But it's the second chamber that baffles archaeologists, accessible only by a narrow, claustrophobic shaft in the ceiling. This space contains a peculiar stepped structure resembling an altar, its purpose as enigmatic as the pyramid's eerie acoustics. Stand here in silence and you'll hear your breath echo with a metallic resonance, as if the walls were lined with unseen metal. What makes the Red Pyramid truly unique is its construction rebellion. Unlike the Great Pyramid's precise celestial alignments, this pyramid's entrance sits on its north face, not the center, but bizarrely off-axis, forcing explorers to crawl through a 200-foot descending passage at a back-breaking 27-degree angle. The design wasn't just impractical, it was deliberate. Many speculate this was a security measure designed to foil tomb robbers by disorienting them with false passages and dead ends. Yet the real shock came in 2020 when thermal scans revealed heat anomalies in the western wall, suggesting a hidden cavity that still hasn't been explored. Compare this to Giza's pyramids, where chambers follow a linear path toward the afterlife. The Red Pyramid's stacked rooms suggest something different, a layered journey, possibly mirroring the Egyptian underworld's tiers. Even the masonry tells a story. While Khufu's pyramid used uniform casing stones, the Red Pyramid's blocks vary wildly in size, revealing the trial and error of a civilization mastering a radical new shape. Some stones bear cryptic red ochre markings, construction notes that include warnings like dangerous slope, next to rough sketches of ramps. This wasn't just a tomb. It was a construction site frozen in time, where you can almost hear the foreman shouting over the groan of sledges hauling stone. The piece de resistance, the burial chamber's ceiling. Instead of the classic corbelled vault seen elsewhere, this room boasts a soaring, self-supporting structure of 14 limestone layers, each slightly offset to distribute weight, an engineering gamble that paid off for 4.5 millennia. When archaeologists first breached it in the 1950s, they found remnants of cedar beams that once held a sarcophagus but no mummy. Just a single haunting artifact, a human femur gnawed by desert foxes, left behind like a taunt. Whether this was a decoy or a tragedy interrupted, one thing's clear. The Red Pyramid doesn't give up its secrets easily, and those echoing chambers, they're not just empty rooms. They're a time capsule of architectural audacity, whispering the price of perfection. Stretching far beyond the sands of Egypt, the pyramid's secrets seem to echo in the most unexpected corners of the world, from the jungles of Cambodia to the highlands of Mexico. At first glance, the stepped temples of Angkor Wat or the towering ziggurats of Teotihuacan appear worlds apart from Giza's geometric perfection. But dig deeper and an unsettling pattern emerges, structures separated by oceans and millennia, yet bound by uncanny similarities. The Great Pyramid and Mexico's Pyramid of the Sun, for instance, share more than just a shape. Both align with celestial precision, the former to Orion's belt, the latter to the Pleiades constellation at key solar events. Both sit at the heart of vast ceremonial complexes mirroring cosmic maps, their layouts reflecting celestial patterns their builders couldn't have known through chance alone. Then there's the matter of construction. The Pyramid of the Sun's core contains a shocking ingredient, sheets of mica, a mineral that insulates against electromagnetic energy layered between its stone tiers. This same material lines the walls of a hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid's Queen's Chamber, a detail that defies coincidence when you consider these cultures supposedly never made contact. Even more baffling, the Cambodian temple of Angkor Thom encodes the same mathematical constant found in Egypt's pyramids. Its central tower's height multiplied by pi equals its perimeter, a fingerprint of advanced geometry recurring across continents. Mainstream archaeology attributes these parallels to convergent evolution, the idea that separate cultures arrived at similar solutions independently. But alternative researchers point to a more provocative explanation: fragments of a lost global civilization or a shared spiritual blueprint carried by ancient seafarers. The Dogon people of Mali, for example, possess astronomical knowledge of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye that mirrors Egyptian cosmology. Meanwhile, Hindu texts describe vimanas, flying machines that echo the solar boats buried beside the pyramids. Could these be cultural memories of a forgotten network of exchange? Or is there a deeper, more unsettling truth that our ancestors accessed a universal knowledge we've since forgotten? The most compelling evidence lies in the stars. The pyramids of Giza, Teotihuacan, and Xi'an in China form a near-perfect arc across the globe when mapped, one that aligns with Earth's axial tilt during the last ice age. This world pyramid belt suggests a coordinated effort spanning continents, possibly tracking a celestial event so significant it compelled cultures worldwide to build in unison. Whether this connection stems from shared ancestry, extraterrestrial influence, or something beyond our current understanding, one thing is undeniable: the pyramids aren't just Egyptian wonders. They're chapters in a story written in stone across the planet, waiting for us to piece together the narrative. And with every new discovery, the threads between these ancient sites grow harder to dismiss as mere coincidence. The mortar holding the Great Pyramid's colossal stones together isn't just ordinary glue. It's a chemical enigma that has defied replication for centuries. While modern cement crumbles after a few decades, this ancient adhesive has endured for over 4.5 millennia, binding blocks with a strength that rivals the stone itself. When 19th century chemists first analyzed samples, they expected to find a simple mix of gypsum or clay. Instead, they stumbled upon a sophisticated blend of burnt limestone, silica, and an unknown organic compound, a recipe so advanced it left them baffled. Even more puzzling, the mortar isn't uniform. Samples from different pyramid layers vary slightly in composition, as if the builders adjusted the formula like master chefs tweaking a secret sauce for each course. Recent X-ray diffraction studies revealed microscopic crystals embedded in the mortar, a mineral called tricalcium silicate, the same key ingredient in modern Portland cement. But here's the catch: industrial cement requires kilns heated to nearly 1,500 degrees Celsius, a temperature the ancients supposedly couldn't achieve. So how did they synthesize it? One theory points to natron, a salt mined from dry lake beds and used in mummification. When mixed with lime and heated, it could have triggered a similar chemical reaction at lower temperatures. Another clue lies in traces of beer residue found in the mortar, not as a binding agent but possibly as a chemical catalyst. The sugars in fermented grain might have accelerated crystallization, creating a mortar that hardened faster and stronger than anything else of its era. But the real mystery isn't just how they made it, it's why we can't duplicate it today. Modern attempts to recreate the mortar consistently fall short, with lab samples cracking within years. The missing ingredient might be time itself. Geologists suggest the pyramid's mortar underwent a slow, natural process called geopolymerization, where minerals recrystallize over centuries under constant pressure from the stones above. This gradual transformation turned the mortar into something closer to synthetic rock than adhesive. There's also the eerie role of the desert environment. The extreme temperature swings between day and night may have acted like a natural kiln, continuously annealing the mortar for generations after construction. Perhaps the most tantalizing discovery came from a 2021 study using atomic microscopy. The mortar's atomic structure shows signs of deliberate stressing at tiny fractures that somehow make it more resilient, not less. This counterintuitive technique, known as crack deflection, is a principal modern materials scientists use in bulletproof glass and jet turbine blades. Did the ancients understand nanotechnology-level physics, or was this accidental genius stumbled upon through trial and error? Either way, the mortar's endurance is a silent testament to a lost school of engineering, one that built not just for decades but for epochs. And here's the kicker: the mortar isn't just stronger than modern equivalents, it's self-repairing. In humid conditions, the limestone-based binder slowly dissolves and recrystallizes, filling micro-cracks like a living organism healing its wounds. This property explains why the pyramids have survived earthquakes that toppled later monuments. While the stones shift, the mortar adapts, maintaining a flexible bond that stiffens when stressed. Some researchers even speculate the builders incorporated sacrificial weak points, designing certain joints to fail first and absorb energy, sparing the rest of the structure, a concept now used in earthquake-resistant skyscrapers. What started as a humble mix of mud and minerals has become one of antiquity's most enduring puzzles, because the secret of this mortar isn't just in its chemistry, it's in the philosophy behind it. Modern construction prioritizes speed and efficiency, but the pyramid builders valued longevity above all else. Their mortar whispers a radical idea that the true measure of genius isn't how quickly you can build, but how long your creation can outlast you. And in that sense, they succeeded beyond imagination, their adhesive gripping time itself, one microscopic crystal at a time. When the first archaeologists breached the burial chambers of Egypt's ancient pyramids, they expected golden sarcophagi stacked with jewels, but what they found instead were haunting echoes of absence. The pyramids were never meant to be hollow. Their walls once groaned under the weight of treasures so magnificent. Even Herodotus refused to describe them for fear no one would believe his words. Among the missing, the legendary silver bow of Pharaoh Giza, said to harness lightning when drawn, the Book of Thoth, a fabled text rumored to grant mastery over time itself, mentioned in temple scrolls but never found. And perhaps most poignant of all, the life-sized quartzite statues of Khufu's family, his queen, his children, that should have surrounded him in eternity, now existing only as empty plinths in the king's chamber. Modern technology reveals just how thorough the looting was. Ground-penetrating radar shows grooves in the bedrock where heavy chests were dragged away, their contents lost to history. But here's the twist: not everything could be taken. In 2014, scans detected metallic anomalies beneath the Queen's chamber. Not gold or silver, but a strange alloy resembling meteoric iron. Ancient texts speak of iron from the sky used in sacred objects, and a dagger forged from space metal was indeed found on Tutankhamun's mummy. Could the pyramid still hide similar artifacts, too heavy or too sacred to move? Then there's the matter of what thieves overlooked. In 2019, a team restoring the bent pyramid's inner chambers discovered a niche behind a loose block. Inside lay a single alabaster jar filled with natron salt, an embalming material, and a scrap of papyrus bearing a single glyph, Juwat, the underworld. This wasn't treasure as we picture it, but something far more precious to the Egyptians, a ritual bundle meant to guide the pharaoh's soul. Such intimate items, hidden in architectural blind spots, suggest that pyramids may still hold poor man's treasures, objects worthless to robbers but priceless to historians. The greatest hope lies in what hasn't been opened. The newly discovered void above the Grand Gallery could contain anything from untouched funerary offerings to the original burial of Khufu himself. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin theorizes that secret chambers might house the pyramid's true burial goods, separate from the decoy sarcophagi meant to distract thieves. Supporting this idea are ancient worker logs found at Wadi al-Jarf, describing the delivery of invisible gold to Giza, possibly a metaphor for knowledge, or a reference to electrum-plated artifacts designed to blend into stone walls until activated by torchlight. But perhaps the most tantalizing clue comes from the pyramid's very mortar. Recent spectrographic analysis revealed flecks of malachite and lapis lazuli embedded in the binding material gemstones ground not for decoration, but possibly as conductive elements in some lost technology. If the pyramid was, as some fringe theorists suggest, an ancient power plant or energy device, these treasures might not be jewels at all, but components of a system we no longer understand. So what remains hidden? The answer may lie in the pyramid's most overlooked spaces, the so-called air shafts too narrow for humans, the submerged chambers beneath the Sphinx, or even the microscopic gaps between stones where a civilization that mastered eternity might have left messages too small for tomb raiders to see. The real treasure isn't just what was taken, it's what the pyramid's architects knew we'd overlook. And as long as those stones stand, their secrets still breathe, waiting for the right key to turn. The Great Pyramid of Giza isn't just massive, it's unfathomably heavy, a mountain of stone weighing approximately 6 million tons. To put that mind-bending number into perspective, that's like stacking 40 Empire State Buildings on top of each other, or piling every single battleship from World War II into one colossal heap. Every single block in that towering structure averages 2.5 tons, the weight of a pickup truck, but some of the granite slabs in the King's Chamber tip the scales at a jaw-dropping 80 tons each, equivalent to a fully loaded commercial jetliner. And here's the kicker, the ancients moved these stones without wheels, pulleys, or iron tools, just copper chisels, wooden sleds, and sheer human ingenuity. So how did they do it? The math alone is staggering. With an estimated 2.3 million blocks, builders would have needed to place one block every 2.5 minutes, 10 hours a day for 20 years straight. That's not just a construction project, it's a logistical ballet on a scale that would challenge modern engineers. Recent experiments reveal part of the secret: wet sand. Wall paintings in tombs near Giza show workers pouring water in front of sledges, and physics backs this up. Dampening the sand reduces friction by over 50%, making it possible to drag massive stones with just a fraction of the manpower. A team from the University of Amsterdam proved this in a lab. What looked like artistic license turned out to be a genius hack hidden in plain sight. But the real marvel isn't just moving the stones, it's placing them. The pyramid's base covers 13 acres, yet its foundation is level to within less than an inch across that entire expanse. Imagine trying to balance a dinner plate on a wobbly table, then scaling that precision up to the size of a city block. Builders likely used simple but effective tools like water-filled trenches as natural levels, marking flood lines to ensure perfect flatness. Then there's the matter of elevation. As the pyramid grew taller, ramps, some straight, some spiraling, allowed workers to haul stones upward. Archaeologists argue over the exact design, but remnants of a zigzagging ramp discovered at Hatnub Quarry suggest the Egyptians may have used a system of switchbacks, reducing the slope's angle while maximizing stability. The most baffling feat, the pyramid's weight distribution. Despite the crushing load, the structure has settled less than half an inch over 4 millennia, a testament to its ingenious foundation. The builders didn't just drop stones onto the desert, they excavated down to bedrock, then leveled it with a grid of trenches filled with compacted rubble. This acted like a shock absorber, preventing shifts during earthquakes or floods. Even the internal chambers were designed to bear weight differently. The Grand Gallery's corbelled walls divert pressure around the king's chamber like a stone cocoon, ensuring the pharaoh's sanctuary wouldn't collapse under the mountain above it. What's often overlooked is the human cost of all this weight. Contrary to old myths of slaves toiling under whips, forensic evidence from worker cemeteries tells a different story. These were skilled laborers, well-fed and medically cared for, who left behind healed fractures and surgical scars. The real muscle behind the pyramid wasn't oppression, it was organization. Papyrus records from Wadi al-Jarf detail teams of workers rotating in shifts with names like the Vigorous Gang and the Enduring Ones. They weren't just hauling stones, they were part of a national project, a celestial mission to touch the sky. And here's the ultimate twist: the pyramid's weight isn't just a testament to physical labor, it's a mirror of cosmic scales. The structure's mass roughly equals 5 billion times the weight of the Earth's crust per square meter, a ratio that eerily echoes the planet's own balance between crust and mantle. Was this intentional? Probably not. But in a culture that saw the universe as a tapestry of sacred numbers, it's a poetic reminder that the pyramid's true weight isn't measured in tons, but in the audacity of human ambition. To build it was to defy gravity, time, and the very limits of what a civilization without modern tools could achieve, and that's a secret no scale can measure. The pyramid's relationship with the stars goes far beyond symbolic decoration. It's etched into the very fabric of its design, turning the structure into a colossal stone observatory locked in silent dialogue with the cosmos. While most ancient cultures tracked the heavens from open-air altars or hilltop shrines, the Egyptians may have used the pyramid's inner passages and precise angles as a kind of permanent astronomical instrument. Take the winter solstice, the year's shortest day. At dawn on December 21st, sunlight pierces the Great Pyramid's descending corridor like a laser, striking a precise point on the floor before retreating as the sun climbs higher. This isn't random. The corridor's 26-degree angle matches the sun's solstice elevation in 2500 BC, suggesting the pyramid didn't just mark time, it measured it with the precision of a sundial carved from mountains. But the solstice alignment is just the beginning. The so-called air shafts emanating from the king's and queen's chambers, long dismissed as ventilation, point directly to key stars as they appeared in ancient skies. The southern shaft of the king's chamber targets Al-Nitak, the brightest star in Orion's belt, while its northern counterpart fixes on Thuban, the pole star of the Pharaohs era. Meanwhile, the Queen's Chamber's southern shaft aligns with Sirius, the brightest star in Earth's night sky and the celestial embodiment of the goddess Isis. These alignments weren't static, they shifted with the seasons, turning the pyramid into a dynamic celestial calendar. When Sirius rose heliacally, first appearing just before dawn after months of invisibility, it signaled the Nile's annual flood, an event critical to agriculture. The pyramid's shafts may have acted as a warning system, with priests watching for the star's light to touch certain markers deep inside the structure. The Grand Gallery adds another layer to this cosmic function. Its corbelled ceiling, often compared to a telescopic sight, narrows upward at an angle matching the sun's trajectory during the equinoxes. During these biannual events, when day and night are equal, sunlight would have flooded the gallery's entire length at noon, creating a dramatic corridor of light leading to the king's chamber. Modern recreations show this effect illuminates hidden notches in the walls, possibly ceremonial markers, or even viewing stations for tracking celestial movements. Some researchers propose the gallery's unusual length and slope allowed observers to measure stellar declinations by sighting along its edge, using the pyramid itself as a giant theodolite. Then there's the unsettling precision of the pyramid's cardinal alignment. True north isn't a fixed point, it drifts over millennia due to Earth's axial wobble. Yet the pyramid's sides deviate from true north by just 3/60ths of a degree, an accuracy surpassing that of the Greenwich Observatory. How one theory points to the Indian Circle method, where ancient astronomers bisected the angle between a star's rising and setting positions. Another suggests they used the circumpolar stars, those that never dip below the horizon, as a natural compass. The pyramid's architects didn't just replicate celestial patterns, they anticipated their shifts. The structure's dimensions encode the length of Earth's precessional cycle, 25,920 years, through ratios between its base perimeter and height. Whether by design or divine coincidence, the pyramid seems to map time on a scale beyond human lifespans, embedding celestial mechanics into limestone. Perhaps the most provocative evidence lies in the pyramid's absent capstone. Arab historians like al-Masudi describe the original summit as a prism-like crystal that collected starlight, while the pyramid texts speak of the pharaoh's soul ascending a ladder of light to merge with Orion. Modern experiments show the pyramid's shape focuses electromagnetic waves into its internal chambers, particularly in frequencies matching cosmic background radiation. Was the missing capstone a kind of transducer converting stellar energy into something tangible? Or was the pyramid's true purpose not just to observe the heavens but to communicate with them? From solstice markers to stellar alignments, the pyramids stand as a testament to a civilization that didn't just watch the sky, they wove it into the bedrock of their world. Every stone, every shaft, every perfect angle whispers the same truth. To the ancients, astronomy wasn't a science apart from spirituality. It was the language in which both were written. And in that silent conversation between Earth and stars, the pyramid remains the most eloquent speaker. The traditional view of pyramid construction paints a picture of relentless labor spanning decades, 20 years for the Great Pyramid of Giza, according to Herodotus. But modern research is unraveling this timeline, revealing inconsistencies that suggest the truth might be far more complex. Take the sheer volume of stone, 2.3 million blocks, each averaging 2.5 tons. To meet a 20-year deadline, workers would have had to quarry, transport, and position one block every 2.5 minutes, 10 hours a day without pause. Even with an army of laborers, the math strains credibility. Alternative theories are emerging, fueled by clues hidden in the pyramid's own architecture. The precision of the stone cutting alone suggests a process far slower than conventional estimates. Experiments with copper tools, the only metal available to the Egyptians, show that shaping granite with such flawless joints would have taken weeks per block, not days. Then there's the mortar. Recent studies reveal it required seasonal conditions to cure properly, hinting at pauses in construction during rainy or humid months. If builders adhered to these natural rhythms, the timeline stretches far beyond 2 decades. Some researchers propose a radical idea. The pyramids weren't built in one continuous push, but in phases, with core structures completed first and outer layers added over generations. Scans of the Great Pyramid reveal density variations in its masonry, suggesting different construction campaigns separated by years or even centuries. This aligns with ancient records describing pharaohs renovating or completing their predecessors' monuments. Could Khufu's pyramid have been a retrofit of an older, unknown structure? The mysterious voids discovered in recent scans, spaces with no clear purpose, hint at earlier architectural layers sealed inside like a Russian nesting doll. Even more provocative are the astronomical clues. The pyramid's shafts align with stars as they appeared in 2500 BC, but slight deviations suggest the builders might have been tracking celestial shifts over a much longer period. If the design incorporated observations spanning centuries, it implies the pyramid's blueprint existed long before Khufu's reign. This challenges not just the construction timeline, but the very identity of its architects. Ancient texts speak of a first time when gods ruled Egypt, and some fringe theorists argue the pyramids are relics of that forgotten age, merely restored by dynastic pharaohs. The most compelling counterpoint comes from geology. The Sphinx's water erosion patterns, as explored earlier, point to a far older origin than traditional Egyptology accepts. If the pyramids are linked to the Sphinx's timeline as their shared celestial alignments suggest their construction could predate dynastic Egypt by millennia. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as speculation, but the evidence mounts: weathered mortar samples, tool marks inconsistent with known Bronze Age methods, and the unsettling precision of mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio encoded in dimensions. So what's the real timeline? The answer may lie somewhere in between. Perhaps the pyramids began as sacred sites in a prehistoric era, then were expanded and refined over generations, their original purpose lost to time. Or maybe the traditional 20-year estimate reflects only the final push to cap a much longer project. Either way, one thing is clear: the pyramids weren't just built. They evolved, and every new discovery peels back another layer of their enigmatic history, reminding us that time itself is the ultimate hidden architect. Beyond the grandeur of the Great Pyramid's massive stone blocks lies a treasure few visitors ever see: delicate, vivid artwork hidden in the shadows of lesser-known pyramids, where every stroke of paint and chisel mark whispers secrets of the afterlife. While Giza's iconic structures capture the imagination with their sheer scale, it's the subtler pyramids, like those at Saqqara and Dosha, that guard the most intimate glimpses into ancient Egyptian beliefs. Step inside the Pyramid of Unas, and you'll find walls etched with the earliest known religious texts in history, the pyramid texts. These hieroglyphs aren't mere decorations, they're spells, painted in vibrant blues and golds, guiding the pharaoh's soul through cosmic trials. One passage shows Unas transforming into a falcon, his arms outstretched like wings, while another depicts him devouring gods to steal their power, a far cry from the serene afterlife scenes in museums. But why place such sacred art deep inside sealed chambers where no living eye would see it? The answer lies in the Egyptian concept of Heka magic that required both words and images to activate. The paintings weren't meant for mortal admiration. They were functional, their power unleashed only when hidden away, vibrating in the dark like a silent incantation. In the Pyramid of Teti, just south of Giza, the artwork takes on an even eerier dimension. Here, the walls are lined with serdab statues, life-sized figures of the pharaoh with hollow eyes, designed to house his spirit if the mummy was destroyed. Nearby, carvings of offering tables overflow with bread, beer, and lotus flowers, each item meticulously detailed so it would materialize eternally in the next world. Some of the most astonishing art, though, lies in the most unexpected places. The Pyramid of Senusret III at Dosha hides a masterpiece beneath its crumbling exterior, a burial chamber ceiling painted with a sprawling star map, its constellations inverted to mirror the underworld sky. The artists didn't just copy the heavens, they reimagined them, charting a celestial roadmap only the dead could follow. Even the colors tell a story. Ultramarine blue, made from crushed lapis lazuli imported from Afghanistan, wasn't chosen for its beauty alone. To the Egyptians, it symbolized the night sky's infinite depths, while the green malachite stripes represented the field of reeds, the paradise where souls would reap eternal harvests. Perhaps the most poignant art lies in the workers' own clandestine contributions. In the Pyramid of Amenemhat III, restorers discovered tiny doodles hidden behind limestone blocks, stick figure scribbles of animals, boats, and even what looks like a child's handprint in red ochre. These weren't official decorations, but personal marks left by the laborers, a fleeting "I was here" etched into eternity. It's a reminder that the pyramids weren't just monuments to gods and kings. They were human spaces, alive with the hopes, fears, and even the whimsy of the people who built them. So the next time you picture the pyramids, don't just see barren stone. Imagine the colors, the cobalt hymns, the golden prayers, the whispered jokes of workers, all sealed away, not lost but waiting. Because in the darkness, those hidden strokes of art still hum with the magic they were meant to hold. And if you listen closely, they might just tell you their stories. Imagine the Great Pyramid not as the weathered, beige monument we see today, but as a blinding geometric mirror, its entire surface clad in 15 acres of polished white Chora limestone, reflecting sunlight with such intensity it could be seen glimmering from mountains miles away. This was the pyramid's original form, a flawless, jewel-like mountain, its casing stones cut with such precision that even a razor blade couldn't slip between them. The Greek historian Herodotus claimed the stones were joined with such fineness that the joints were invisible, while Arab chroniclers describe the pyramid's peak capped with gold, turning dawn's first light into a spectacle of fire. But today, only a few of these casing stones remain at the very base, like fragments of a shattered mirror. So what happened to the rest? The answer is a tale of natural disaster, imperial vanity, and one of history's greatest acts of architectural recycling. The disappearance began not with thieves, but with nature. A massive earthquake in 1303 AD shook loose thousands of casing stones, sending them tumbling down the pyramid's sides like shattered glass. This exposed the softer inner core to erosion, making it easier for later looters to pry away the remaining slabs. But the real pillaging started in the 14th century, when Cairo's Mamluk Sultan an-Nasir Hassan decided to build himself a mosque and saw the pyramids as the ultimate quarry. His workers systematically dismantled the casing stones, dragging them across the desert to be pulverized into mortar or reshaped into minarets. The same stones that once charted celestial movements now cemented the walls of medieval Cairo, their astronomical precision ground into dust for practical use. Yet the most shocking chapter came centuries later, when European explorers joined the plunder. In the 1800s, British archaeologist Richard Vyse, the same man who dynamited his way through the pyramid's interior searching for chambers, reportedly used casing stones as ballast for ships returning to England. Others were carted off to adorn Victorian gardens or serve as paperweights in colonial offices. But here's the twist: not all the theft was human. Modern geologists have found that some casing stones simply dissolved over millennia. The Chora limestone, though dazzling when polished, is highly soluble in acid rain. As industrial pollution crept into Egypt's atmosphere in the 20th century, chemical reactions ate away at the remaining slabs, leaving behind pockmarked surfaces we mistake for natural erosion. A handful of the original casing stones survive, offering glimpses of the pyramid's lost glory. The best preserved examples aren't in Egypt at all, but in the basement of the British Museum, taken by a 19th century diplomat who used them as souvenirs. When scanned under polarized light, these slabs reveal something astonishing. Microscopic tool marks showing they were cut with copper saws and smoothed with quartz sand, a technique so labor-intensive it would take weeks to finish a single block today. Even more telling are the faint red ochre lines still visible on some stones' construction guidelines, painted by overseers to ensure each piece fit perfectly, like a cosmic jigsaw puzzle. The true tragedy of the missing casing stones isn't just the loss of beauty, it's the erasure of a scientific language. Each block was more than a mirror, it was a data point in an ancient geodetic system. The pyramid's original slope, defined by these stones, measured exactly 51.85 degrees, an angle that, when combined with the structure's height, generates the golden ratio. Without the casing, we're left guessing how many other mathematical secrets were etched into that luminous shell. But perhaps the most haunting clue to their purpose lies in an obscure Arab manuscript from the 10th century, which describes the pyramid's exterior covered in strange symbols that glow under moonlight. Were these inscriptions celestial maps? We may never know. The last intact casing stones were reportedly stripped in the 1850s to build a sugar factory, a crass end for artifacts that once touched the sky. Yet their absence speaks louder than their presence ever could, because every missing stone is a silent challenge, daring us to imagine how much grandeur has vanished from the world, and how much we've lost in forgetting that the pyramids weren't just built to endure. They were built to dazzle. To the ancient Egyptians, the pyramids weren't just tombs, they were cosmic launch pads, meticulously designed to catapult the pharaoh's soul into the afterlife. This wasn't mere symbolism, it was a spiritual technology encoded in every passageway, chamber, and hieroglyph. The pyramid texts carved into the walls of 5th dynasty pyramids like Unas spell it out explicitly. The sky's reed floats are launched for you, that you may ascend to the sky among the stars. These spells, the oldest religious writings in existence, describe the pharaoh transforming into light, riding sunbeams like a falcon soaring toward eternity. But the real magic lay in the architecture itself. The ascending corridors, they mirrored the perilous path through the Duat, the underworld's labyrinth of trials. The king's chamber, with its granite sarcophagus, a rebirth womb where the pharaoh's soul would shed its mortal shell like a snake shedding skin. Rituals performed inside the pyramid amplified this celestial journey. Priests conducted the opening of the mouth ceremony, using a sacred adze to symbolically reanimate the pharaoh's mummy, restoring their senses for the afterlife. Offerings of food, wine, and incense weren't just tributes, they were fuel for the soul's voyage as described in the pyramid texts. Take the bread that has been baked for you in the blazing sun, the beer that flows from the eye of Horus. Even the pyramid's orientation played a role. Its shafts aligned with specific stars, Orion for Osiris, Sirius for Isis, creating celestial highways for the pharaoh to follow. But the most startling evidence lies in the pyramid's acoustics. The king's chamber resonates at frequencies matching human brainwaves during deep meditation or near-death experiences. Modern experiments show chanting certain syllables in this space produces harmonic overtones, as if the room itself was tuned for sonic transcendence. Was this intentional? The coffin texts hint at it, describing the dead pharaoh hearing the voices of the gods in the wind between the stones. From star shafts to sound vibrations, the pyramids were less monuments of death than machines of rebirth, a bridge between worlds, engineered by people who saw the afterlife not as a distant hope, but as a destination you could map, measure, and ultimately reach. And if even a fraction of their beliefs were real, these silent stones might still hold the keys to journeys we've yet to imagine. The tools used to craft the pyramids should have been impossible. With no iron, no wheels, and no pulleys, the builders shaped 2.5 million blocks of limestone and granite with a precision that still baffles modern engineers. The official record claims they used simple copper chisels, wooden mallets, and stone pounders, but experiments reveal these tools barely scratch the surface of the mystery. When researchers from the University of Liverpool tried cutting a swan granite with replicated copper saws, the blades dulled after just a few inches, leaving jagged grooves nothing like the mirror-smooth surfaces inside the king's chamber. Even with abrasive sand as a cutting aid, the process took days per block, far too slow for the pyramid's breakneck construction timeline. That's where the real enigma begins. X-ray analysis of the pyramid's granite reveals tool marks with unnerving consistency, straight, parallel grooves spaced less than a millimeter apart, as if cut by a machine. Some core samples even show spiral patterns matching modern diamond-tipped drill bits, yet the Egyptians had no known technology for such precision. The most startling evidence comes from an overlooked stash of tools discovered near the Bent Pyramid in the 1990s. Among the usual copper chisels were strange, crescent-shaped blades made of an alloy containing nickel and cobalt, metals the Egyptians weren't supposed to have smelted. When tested on limestone, these blades cut cleaner and faster than anything else in their toolkit, leaving edges so sharp they could have been laser cut. Modern engineers have proposed radical alternatives to conventional tools. Materials scientist Dr. Maureen Clemens theorized the builders might have used sound. Her experiments showed that specific frequencies can soften stone temporarily, a phenomenon called acoustic fluidization. By vibrating granite at its resonant frequency with tuned rods, her team achieved cuts eerily similar to those in the pyramid's interior. Ancient texts lend credence to this idea. The pyramid texts speak of voices that shape stone, while Arab historians described priests using singing rods to levitate blocks. Skeptics dismiss this as fantasy, but the physics holds up. Ultrasonic vibrations reduce friction by up to 80%, making even multi-ton stones easier to maneuver. Then there's the mystery of the leveling. The pyramid's base spans 13 acres yet deviates from perfect level by less than 2 centimeters, an error margin of 0. 0.0001%. Traditional water levels can't explain this accuracy over such distances. Archaeoastronomer Glenn Dash proposed a brilliant solution, the Indian Circle method. By marking shadows cast by a vertical pole at dawn and dusk during the equinox, then bisecting the angle, builders could have achieved near-perfect alignment without complex tools. But the pyramid's corners take it further. They're not just level, they're adjusted for the Earth's curvature. This implies the builders understood our planet wasn't flat millennia before Eratosthenes calculated its circumference. Perhaps the most tantalizing clues lie in the tools we haven't found. Know where patterns on surviving copper chisels match the volume of stone cut. No rope fragments suggest the massive rigging needed to lift 80-ton beams. Even the sledges used to transport blocks leave questions. Wall paintings show workers pouring liquid in front of them, but recent studies suggest the water might have been a slick, plant-based lubricant that reduced friction beyond what water alone could achieve. The truth may be simpler and stranger than we've imagined. The pyramid builders didn't just use tools, they mastered materials science, acoustics, and celestial mechanics with a sophistication we're only beginning to decode. Their greatest invention wasn't a chisel or a lever, but a way of thinking, one that turned stone, sand, and starlight into the most enduring monument on Earth. And somewhere in the desert, buried beneath millennia of sand, the real tools might still lie waiting, silent witnesses to a technology we've yet to rediscover. Beneath the sun-baked sands of Giza, where the pyramids stand as silent sentinels of the ancient world, lies a network of secrets far more fluid than stone-hidden water channels weaving through the bedrock like veins beneath skin. These aren't mere trickles or seasonal runoff, but engineered passages, some as wide as city streets, cutting through the limestone with purposeful precision. Satellite radar and ground-penetrating scans in recent years have peeled back the desert's layers to reveal their staggering scale. A subterranean highway system for water, connecting the Nile's long-vanished branches to the very foundations of the pyramids. The implications are seismic. For centuries, archaeologists assumed the pyramids' builders relied solely on brute force to haul millions of limestone blocks across the desert. But what if the answer was simpler and far more ingenious? Enter the water shaft theory, championed by engineers like Robert Carson, who noticed something peculiar about the pyramid's construction pits. These massive trenches, long dismissed as quarries or foundation trenches, line up almost perfectly with the newly mapped water channels. When superimposed overflood records from the Old Kingdom, a pattern emerges. These pits flood seasonally, turning into temporary docks where barges could float stone-laden rafts directly to the construction site. But the real clincher lies in the stones themselves. The pyramid's base blocks bear mysterious notches and grooves along their edges, features that make no sense if the blocks were dragged, but align perfectly with a hydraulic lifting system. Imagine this: during the annual Nile inundation, workers could have floated multi-ton stones on pontoons, guiding them through the channels to the pyramid's base. Then, using counterweighted locks or simple sluice gates, they raised the water level in stages, lifting each block into place with minimal force. This wouldn't just explain the pyramid's speed of construction, it would account for the eerie lack of ramp debris in the archaeological record. The channel's purpose might run deeper than logistics. Ancient texts describe the pyramids as islands of creation, echoing the Egyptian belief that life emerged from primordial waters. The subterranean tunnels mirror the celestial waterways of the Duat, the underworld where the sun god Ra sailed each night. Infrared scans of the Sphinx enclosure reveal similar water-worn erosion, suggesting the entire Giza complex was once encircled by a ritual moat, turning the plateau into a symbolic ocean of stone. Yet the most tantalizing clue lies in a recently discovered chamber beneath the Sphinx's paws. When robotic probes explored its flooded depths, they found walls lined with a porous, geopolymer-like cement, a material that hardens underwater. This wasn't just waterproofing, it was intentional construction for a water-filled space. Could these channels have been part of a grand hydraulic device, using buoyancy and pressure to align the pyramids with celestial events? Or were they the physical manifestation of a sacred map, charting the pharaoh's soul's journey through the waters of the afterlife? Every scan, every new drop of data whispers the same truth: the pyramids didn't rise above the desert. They were born from it, not just monuments to the sky, but to the hidden rivers that once flowed beneath them. And if water was the silent architect of these wonders, what other secrets might still be waiting, suspended in the damp darkness below? At first glance, the Great Pyramid's base appears to be a simple square, but look closer and you'll discover a geometric marvel. Each corner forms an angle so precise it deviates from a perfect 90 degrees by less than 1/12 of a single degree. To put that in perspective, modern construction standards allow for errors up to 5 times greater in concrete foundations. How did ancient builders achieve this laser-like accuracy without digital levels or steel tools? The answer lies in a combination of celestial observation and ingenious low-tech solutions that still leave engineers in awe. The most likely method involved the stars, specifically the Indian circle technique. During clear nights, builders would mark the rising and setting positions of a single circumpolar star, one that never dips below the horizon over several days. By bisecting the angle between these 2 points, they could establish a true north-south line with astonishing accuracy. Supporting this theory, astronomer Gerald Hawkins found that observing just the star Thuban, the North Star of Khufu's era, for 7 consecutive nights could yield alignment within 0.05 degrees. But the Egyptians didn't stop there. Excavations at Giza have uncovered remnants of simple yet brilliant tools: copper sighting rods, water-filled trench levels, and tightly stretched hemp ropes treated with beeswax to prevent stretching. The real game-changer was the bay level, a wooden-frame device with a plumb bob that allowed workers to check angles across the pyramid's massive base. When paired with the merkit, an ancient sighting instrument resembling a protractor, teams could maintain perfect orthogonality even as the structure climbed skyward. The corners themselves reveal another secret. Recent 3D scans show subtle concave indentations along each face, a feature long dismissed as erosion but now recognized as intentional. This slight inward curve, averaging just 1 part in 1,000, compensated for optical illusions that make straight lines appear to bulge when viewed from below. The builders essentially invented an early form of entoses, the same curvature technique used in Greek temples millennia before the Parthenon. Perhaps the most mind-bending detail lies in the foundation stone. These massive limestone blocks were precisely grooved with V-shaped channels before placement. When filled with water, these channels created a natural leveling system. The water's surface always finds true horizontal, allowing workers to adjust each stone until the liquid touched pre-marked calibration line. It's a technique still used today in high-precision machining, just with lasers instead of water. The implications are staggering. These weren't rough approximations, but mathematical perfections achieved with tools no more complex than ropes and sticks. In an age before standardized units of measurement, the pyramid's builders essentially turned the night sky and the Earth's own water into their calibration devices. And that flawless geometry wasn't just for show, it was the foundation of a structure that stood unwavering for 46 centuries. A silent testament to the fact that true precision isn't about technology. It's about understanding the world so deeply you can bend its very rules to your will. The idea that the pyramids might have functioned as colossal energy generators sounds like something ripped from the pages of science fiction, but what if there's a sliver of truth buried beneath the speculation? One of the most provocative theories suggests these ancient structures weren't just tombs or temples, but sophisticated power plants harnessing Earth's natural energies. Proponents point to the Great Pyramid's unique properties: Its outer casing stones contain traces of dolomite, a mineral that generates weak electrical charges under pressure, while the inner chambers are lined with granite packed with quartz crystals, a material known for its piezoelectric properties, meaning it produces electricity when vibrated or compressed. Even the pyramid's geometry plays a role. Studies from institutions like the Russian Academy of Sciences show the structure's shape can focus electromagnetic waves into its internal chambers, particularly in the microwave frequency range. This isn't just theoretical. Modern experiments recreating the pyramid's proportions have recorded measurable energy spikes, as if the design itself acts as a resonant cavity. Then there's the mystery of the so-called wireless electricity hypothesis. In the early 20th century, inventor Nikola Tesla became fascinated by the pyramid's design, noting how its capstone-less apex resembled the terminals of his own Wardenclyffe Tower, a failed project aimed at transmitting energy through the air. Some researchers argue the pyramid's shafts and chambers might have functioned as waveguides, channeling telluric currents, natural electrical flows within the Earth's crust, upward. The most compelling and controversial evidence comes from the pyramid's subterranean chamber, where scorch marks on the walls and ceiling hint at exposure to extreme heat or electrical discharge. Could this be the residue of some long-lost energy experiment? Of course, mainstream archaeology dismisses these claims as pseudoscience. Quartz in granite, they argue, is inert unless subjected to precise mechanical stress, something the pyramid's static structure wouldn't provide. The scorch marks more likely traces of torches used by ancient laborers or later explorers. As for the electromagnetic studies, skeptics note that any large stone structure will interact with natural frequencies. It doesn't prove intentional design. The real sticking point is the absence of any textual or archaeological evidence linking the pyramids to energy manipulation. If they were power plants, where are the wires, the conductors, the instructions? Yet the theory persists, fueled by odd anomalies. The discovery of thin, chemically coated copper wires in the Queen's Chamber's shafts, far too fragile for structural purposes, hints at something beyond ventilation. Even the pyramid's missing capstone takes on new significance in this context. Arab historians described it as a prism-like crystal that collected starlight, while modern physicists point out that a conductive capstone could theoretically form a passive capacitor, storing static electricity from the atmosphere. The most balanced view comes from materials scientist Dr. Carmen Bolter, who suggests the pyramid may have functioned less like a battery and more like a tuner, harmonizing with natural energies for ritual or healing purposes rather than industrial output. Whether the pyramids were energy generators, celestial resonators, or simply the world's most enduring architectural marvels, their secrets continue to spark debate. And perhaps that's the real power they hold, not in watts or volts, but in their ability to keep us questioning, probing, and marveling at the line between ancient wisdom and modern imagination. After all, if a structure can defy time, why not physics too? One of the most enduring mysteries of the Great Pyramid isn't what it contains, but what's conspicuously absent. Despite its grandeur as the ultimate royal tomb, not a single mummy has ever been found in its chambers. No golden sarcophagus, no funerary treasures, not even a fragment of bone. The king's chamber houses nothing but an empty granite box, lidless and unmarked, while the queen's chamber feels more like a hollow echo than a burial site. This glaring void has fueled theories ranging from the pragmatic to the fantastical, each trying to answer the same haunting question. If the pyramid wasn't built to house a pharaoh's body, what was its true purpose? The simplest explanation is theft. Tomb raiding in ancient Egypt wasn't just common, it was practically an industry. Papyrus records from the Middle Kingdom describe organized gangs bribing officials to plunder royal tombs, and the Great Pyramid's massive size would have made it a prime target. The absence of mummies could mean looters breached hidden chambers long before modern archaeologists arrived, leaving no trace of their incursions. Some evidence supports this. The pyramid's original entrance was concealed behind casing stones, yet it shows signs of being pried open in antiquity. Arab historian al-Makrizi wrote of treasure hunters in the 9th century who allegedly found the king's chamber already empty, its sarcophagus lid shattered on the floor. But here's the catch: even the most thorough looters would have left behind something: fragments of wrappings, broken canopic jars, or at least graffiti. The pyramid's sterile emptiness suggests a deeper enigma. That's where the hidden chamber theory gains traction. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project discovered a massive void above the Grand Gallery, a space the size of a commercial airliner with no known entrance. Could this be Khufu's true burial chamber, sealed off during construction and never violated? Proponents point to the pyramid's unusual design. The Grand Gallery's steep incline and intricate corbelled ceiling seem over-engineered just to support weight. Some speculate it's a decoy, drawing attention away from a more sacred space hidden elsewhere. Even the so-called air shafts might be misnamed. Their precise alignments to stars like Sirius and Orion suggest a ritual function, possibly guiding the pharaoh's soul to a concealed resting place modern scans haven't yet detected. Then there's the radical possibility that the pyramid was never intended to hold a physical body at all. Ancient texts like the pyramid texts emphasize the pharaoh's transformation into light, his soul ascending to join the gods. Could the pyramid have been a symbolic tomb, a sort of spiritual launch pad where the king's essence transcended the material world? This idea gains weight when you consider the pyramid's acoustics. The king's chamber resonates at frequencies linked to altered states of consciousness, and the granite sarcophagus vibrates in sync with Earth's natural electromagnetic pulses. Perhaps the missing mummy isn't an oversight but a clue. The real burial was metaphysical, woven into the stones themselves. Yet the most provocative theory comes from fringe researchers who argue we're looking in the wrong era entirely. Geological evidence suggests the Sphinx's erosion patterns predate Khufu by millennia, leading some to propose the Great Pyramid is far older, a repurposed structure from a lost civilization. If true, Khufu might have simply claimed it, leaving his actual burial site elsewhere. Supporting this, the only definitive reference to Khufu inside the pyramid is a small, crudely painted graffiti in the relieving chambers, almost like an afterthought. The truth may lie somewhere in between. The pyramid's missing mummy could be the result of multiple factors: early looting, hidden chambers still undiscovered, and a funerary tradition that prioritized spiritual over physical preservation. Whatever the answer, the emptiness at the heart of the Great Pyramid isn't just a historical footnote, it's a silent challenge, daring us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about death, eternity, and the lengths an ancient civilization would go to cheat oblivion. And until that final chamber is found, if it exists at all, the pyramid's greatest secret may remain the absence at its core. The Great Pyramid doesn't just tower over the desert, it speaks in numbers, its dimensions whispering mathematical riddles that have haunted scholars for centuries. Take its base perimeter, measure all four sides, and you get a figure of 36,524 inches, a number mirroring the days in a solar year when divided by 100. Coincidence? Not likely. Then there's the pyramid's height multiplied by 43,200, which equals Earth's polar radius with eerie precision. This number, 43,200, isn't random, it's a key to ancient cosmology, tied to the precession of the equinoxes, the 25,920-year wobble of Earth's axis. The builders didn't just measure stone, they froze time in limestone, but the real shocker lies in the pyramid's latitude. Its location at 29.979 degrees north aligns with the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. Skeptics dismiss this as cherry-picking, but the correlation is too exact to ignore. Even more unnerving, the pyramid's apex encodes pi, not as the crude 3.16 the Egyptians used in mundane calculations, but as 3.14159, accurate to 4 decimal places. The ratio of its perimeter to height unlocks this constant, a feat requiring knowledge of advanced mathematics supposedly unknown for millennia. Some theorists argue these aren't just clever quirks, they're a deliberate language. The pyramid's architects may have embedded universal constants into its design as a way to communicate with future civilizations. Imagine this: if Earth's surface were ever scoured by catastrophe, the pyramid's indestructible geometry would still broadcast its message, a beacon of lost knowledge. Others propose the measurements reflect sacred numerology, aligning with ancient mystical traditions that saw certain numbers as bridges between earthly and divine realms. The pyramid's height, for instance, was originally 280 royal cubits, a number linked to lunar cycles and gestation periods in Egyptian mythology. Yet the most provocative theory suggests the pyramid's dimensions are a map. Its proportions mirror the northern hemisphere at a scale of 1 to 43,200, with the apex representing the pole and the perimeter matching Earth's equatorial circumference. Even the slight flattening of the pyramid's sides corresponds to our planet's actual curvature. This isn't just symbolism, it's geodesy, a science the ancients shouldn't have possessed. How could builders without satellites or global surveys encode such precise geographical data? The answer might lie in lost techniques of star-based surveying or something far more controversial, inherited wisdom from a civilization erased by time. One thing's certain, the pyramid's measurements weren't accidental. Every inch, every angle, every ratio feels too deliberate, too laden with meaning. Whether it's a mathematical time capsule, a celestial blueprint, or something beyond our current understanding, the stones are shouting a message we're still struggling to hear. And until we crack its code, the pyramid remains history's most tantalizing riddle, not written on parchment, but carved into the very bones of the Earth. Building the pyramids wasn't just a feat of engineering, it was a monumental act of human organization, requiring the coordination of thousands of workers whose basic needs had to be met with military precision. Imagine a city springing up overnight in the shadow of the rising pyramid, its streets buzzing with bakers, brewers, and medics working around the clock to sustain an army of laborers. Recent excavations at Giza's lost city of the pyramid builders have shattered old myths of whipped slaves toiling under the scorching sun. Instead, they reveal a highly organized community where workers were fed like royalty, housed in sturdy dormitories, and even treated for injuries with surprising sophistication. The scale of provisioning alone boggles the mind. Archaeologists uncovered industrial-sized bakeries capable of churning out tens of thousands of loaves daily, flatbreads made from emmer wheat, still recognizable in charred fragments. Nearby, rows of giant vats held residue of a thick, beer-like gruel, the ancient equivalent of an energy drink, laced with dates for sweetness and nutrients. But the real surprise came from the garbage heaps: fish bones from the Nile Delta, cattle ribs from distant farms, and even traces of imported olives and garlic painted a picture of a diet far richer than the average Egyptian's. Forensic analysis of workers' bones confirmed this. Their remains showed higher levels of protein than contemporary elites, a testament to the value placed on their strength and stamina. Housing was equally impressive. Long, gallery-style dormitories stretched across the plateau, each divided into modular bays with sleeping platforms that could accommodate up to 50 men. These weren't cramped hovels but carefully planned spaces, with designated areas for tool storage and even makeshift shrines where crews could pray to protective deities. The walls bore graffiti playful team names like the Drunkards of Menkaure or the Friends of Khufu Gang, hinting at camaraderie rather than coercion. Payroll records on flaking papyrus discovered in a nearby administrative building detailed wages paid in bread, beer, and linen, with bonuses for overtime. One fragment even lists extra rations awarded to a team that hauled an especially heavy granite block, a gesture that reads more like modern union negotiations than slave labor. Healthcare was another revelation. The workers' cemetery west of the pyramids yielded skeletons with healed fractures, set bones, and even evidence of successful amputations, proof they received medical care that would have been extraordinary for the time. One man's skull showed trepanation, a daring procedure where surgeons drilled into the brain to relieve pressure, yet the bone had regrown, meaning he survived for years afterward. These weren't disposable laborers, they were skilled professionals whose well-being was prioritized. Even dental evidence shocked researchers. Many workers had teeth worn down not by grit in their food, but from clenching ropes between them while hauling stones, a detail that humanizes their labor with heartbreaking clarity. The logistics of moving supplies were just as meticulously planned. A recently discovered harbor on the Nile's ancient western branch served as a bustling port, where barges unloaded Aswan granite, Chura limestone, and cedar logs from Lebanon. Donkey caravans arriving from the Fayoum oasis brought baskets of salt fish, while desert outposts supplied dates and honey. The scale suggests a supply chain rivaling modern military operations, with scribes tracking every delivery in hieratic script on pottery shards, the ancient version of inventory spreadsheets. What emerges isn't the grim tableau of oppression Hollywood loves, but something far more revolutionary. A society capable of marshalling its people not through fear, but through shared purpose. The pyramid wasn't just Khufu's tomb, it was Egypt's Apollo program, a national project that united farmers, artisans, and priests in a celestial endeavor. And when you stand before those colossal stones today, you're not just seeing ancient engineering, you're witnessing the indelible imprint of ordinary hands that shaped eternity, fueled by bread, bound by brotherhood, and remembered not as slaves but as builders of the impossible. Standing guard just half a kilometer east of the Great Pyramid, the Great Sphinx isn't merely a neighbor. It's part of an intricate celestial and geological blueprint that binds these two ancient wonders together in ways we're only beginning to understand. At first glance, they seem like separate marvels, one a towering geometric perfection, the other a sprawling lion with a pharaoh's face carved directly from the bedrock. But look closer, and the connections emerge like hidden threads in a grand tapestry. The Sphinx's paws align precisely with the pyramid's eastern base, forming a straight sightline to the Nile's ancient floodplain, as if the two monuments were bookends to a sacred processional way. The most striking link lies in their shared astronomy. While the pyramid's shafts point to Orion and Sirius, the Sphinx gazes due east, directly at the rising sun on the spring equinox. But here's where it gets uncanny. During the age of Leo, around 10,500 BC, the Sphinx would have faced its own celestial counterpart, the constellation Leo, hovering on the horizon at dawn. This has led some researchers, like archaeoastronomer Robert Bovell, to propose that the Sphinx's original form might be far older than traditionally believed, its lion body symbolizing that astrological era. The pyramid, then, could represent the next age, the age of Taurus, with its descending and ascending passages mirroring the bull's horns in ancient star charts. Together, they form a cosmic clock, their alignments marking epochs of time. Then there's the matter of water. The Sphinx's enclosure bears deep vertical erosion grooves characteristic of prolonged rainfall, weather patterns that vanished from Egypt by 2500 BC, when mainstream Egyptology dates its carving. Geologist Robert Scott's controversial analysis suggests the Sphinx could be thousands of years older, its weathered flanks reshaped by Khufu's sculptors rather than created by them. If true, the pyramid might have been positioned deliberately to echo this ancient sentinel, creating a dialogue between old and new sacred geography. Even the materials whisper of connection. Core samples reveal the Sphinx's limestone shares chemical fingerprints with the pyramid's inner casing stones, suggesting they were quarried from the same geological layer. But the most provocative theory involves their subterranean ties. Ground-penetrating radar has detected a network of tunnels beneath the Sphinx's pores, some leading westward toward the pyramid's vicinity. Ancient Arab historians like al-Makrizi wrote of a hidden chamber beneath the Sphinx containing the secrets of sciences left by the wise men of Atlantis, while modern scans show anomalies consistent with rectangular voids. Could these passageways form part of a larger, undiscovered complex linking the two sites? The so-called Tomb of Osiris, discovered in the 1990s just west of the Sphinx, features a flooded central shaft eerily reminiscent of the pyramid's subterranean chamber, a design too similar to dismiss as coincidence. Symbolically, their partnership runs even deeper. The pyramid, with its ascending corridors, embodies the pharaoh's journey to the stars, while the Sphinx, half human, half beast, represents the duality of earthly and divine power. Together, they map a spiritual journey from the mortal realm guarded by the Sphinx to the celestial gateway of the pyramid. Even their damage patterns tell a story. While the pyramid's casing stones were stripped away, the Sphinx's nose was deliberately obliterated, as if someone sought to sever the connection between these stone witnesses to history. Whether built millennia apart or as part of a unified vision, the pyramid and Sphinx stand as silent collaborators in a mystery we've yet to fully decipher. Every scan, every excavation, every new alignment discovered reinforces the haunting possibility that these monuments weren't just built near each other. They were built for each other, two halves of a message meant to endure long after their creators turned to dust. And if we ever uncover what lies between them, it might rewrite not just Egypt's story, but humanity's. Most visitors to the Great Pyramid gaze up at its towering faces or shuffle single file through the cramped ascending passage, never suspecting they're walking past multiple hidden doors carved into the very stones beneath their feet. The pyramid isn't just a static monument, it's a labyrinth with at least 9 confirmed entrances, most deliberately concealed by the ancient architects. Take the so-called Al-Mamun's forced entry, the jagged tunnel tourists use today. This 8th century breach actually exposed something astonishing. The original descending passage ceiling hides a perfectly square limestone plug weighing 3 tons, its edges camouflaged to blend seamlessly with the surrounding masonry. This wasn't just a barrier, it was a decoy distracting from the true system of hidden accesses woven into the pyramid's fabric. One of the most intriguing secrets lies in the Queen's Chamber's southern wall. For over a century, archaeologists dismissed the uneven stonework as sloppy craftsmanship until thermal scans in 2016 revealed a stunning anomaly. Behind the rough limestone sits a narrow, meter-high corridor angling upward at 40 degrees, its floor lined with mysterious metal fittings. Robotic probes have glimpsed what appears to be a small chamber at its end, but the passage abruptly turns, keeping its contents tantalizingly out of view. The construction mirrors the pyramid's known air shafts, yet this one was deliberately sealed from inside as if something, or someone, needed to be permanently contained. Then there's the subterranean chamber's best-kept secret. Beneath its rough-hewn floor, accessible only by a near-vertical shaft barely wider than a human torso, lies a network of flooded tunnels. French archaeologist Gilles Dormeau mapped these in 2012 using submersible drones, discovering that they extend toward the Nile's ancient riverbed. The walls bear tool marks unlike any elsewhere in the pyramid, not the clean strokes of copper chisels, but ragged grooves suggesting some form of water-powered drilling. What makes these tunnels truly bizarre is their termination. They dead end at smooth, convex walls of black basalt, a stone found nowhere else in Giza. Local legends speak of the pyramid's river gates, underground access points that allegedly allowed priests to enter unseen during flood seasons when the waters rose. Perhaps the most architecturally significant hidden entrance lies outside the pyramid entirely. On the northeastern corner, obscured by millennia of wind-blown sand, ground-penetrating radar has detected a descending ramp lined with cedar beams. Unlike the grand processional causeways of later pyramids, this passage is only 3 feet wide, its ceiling scorched by what appears to be torches held at consistent 4-foot intervals. Excavations suggest it connects to the mysterious Tomb of Osiris complex beneath the Sphinx's causeway, forming a subterranean highway between Egypt's 2 most iconic monuments. The ramp's dimensions match descriptions in the pyramid texts of the Hidden Path of Anubis, a ceremonial route for transporting sacred artifacts away from prying eyes. Why go to such lengths to conceal these passages? The answer may lie in the pyramid's dual nature as both tomb and temple. While the ceremonial entrances like the Grand Gallery served public ritual purposes, these hidden routes likely facilitated the movement of priests performing unseen rites, or the secret removal of artifacts during times of political upheaval. Some corridors show where patterns suggesting frequent use over centuries, their floors polished smooth by countless unseen footsteps. Others, like the Queen's Chamber's sealed shaft, contain hieratic inscriptions warning of doors that must never open, hinting at chambers deemed too sacred or too dangerous for even the pyramid's builders to access. Modern technology continues to peel back these ancient secrets. Muon tomography scans in 2020 detected another potential entrance high on the pyramid's northern face, its lintel carved with a unique chevron pattern seen only in the deepest parts of the structure. Whether it leads to undiscovered chambers or simply served as a construction access point remains unknown. But one thing is certain: the pyramids were designed to reveal their mysteries slowly, layer by layer, ensuring that even after 45 centuries, we've barely scratched the surface of their secrets. And with every hidden corridor uncovered, we're reminded that these weren't just monuments to the dead, they were living, evolving sanctuaries, their true purpose still whispering from behind walls of stone. The pyramids may stand as monuments to eternity, but their stones tell a far more worldly story, one of sprawling trade networks that connected the ancient world in ways we're only beginning to map. Hidden within the Great Pyramid's 2.5 million blocks are fingerprints of distant lands, limestone from Tura across the Nile, granite hauled 600 miles from Aswan, and even cedar wood imported from the forests of Lebanon. These weren't just random materials, they were strategic choices whispering of a civilization that didn't just build locally, it sourced globally, turning Giza into a bustling hub of international exchange. Take the pyramid's gleaming white casing stones, originally quarried at Tura. This fine limestone wasn't merely prized for its polish. Its location on the Nile's east bank meant it could be floated directly to Giza on barges during the annual floods. But the real revelation came when archaeologists analyzed the mortar binding these stones. Traces of sand from the eastern desert revealed a supply chain stretching deep into the Red Sea hills, where specialized teams mined quartz for its abrasive properties. Even more telling, residue of cedar resin in the mortar, a waterproofing agent only available from Phoenician traders who sailed the Mediterranean. This wasn't just construction, it was a logistical symphony with materials converging from every corner of the known world. The granite tells an even more staggering tale. The massive slabs in the King's Chamber, some weighing 80 tons, came from Aswan's quarries over 500 miles upstream. Papyrus records from Wadi al-Jaf detail how teams of 1,200 men worked year-round cutting these blocks, then waited for the Nile's floodwaters to rise high enough to float them north on colossal barges. One account even describes a failed shipment, a block that cracked mid-transport and was repurposed as a roadside shrine, proving the Egyptians tracked their materials with meticulous care. But here's the twist: some Aswan granite contains microscopic traces of gold, not enough to gleam, but enough to hint at something radical. The quarries may have doubled as processing sites for Nubian gold, blending construction with commerce in a seamless economic dance. Then there are the enigmas that defy easy explanation. Deep in the pyramid's substructure, workers left behind tools made of copper, but not just any copper. Spectrographic analysis reveals arsenic-rich ore from mines in the Sinai, a formulation that made the metal harder and more durable. Why import such specialized materials when local copper was abundant? The answer might lie in a shattered faience tile found near the Queen's Chamber, its turquoise glaze matching Sinai's Serabit el-Qadim mines, a site also dedicated to the goddess Hathor, protector of miners and foreign lands. This suggests the pyramid's trade network wasn't just practical, it was sacred, with each material carrying spiritual significance as well as functional value. The most provocative evidence, though, comes from what's missing. The pyramid's original capstone was said to be electrum, a shimmering gold-silver mix, but not a single fragment has ever been found. Recent studies of Egyptian trade treaties with the Hittites revealed tantalizing clues. Cuneiform tablets request white gold, their term for electrum, in exchange for Anatolian iron, a metal so rare in Egypt it was considered more precious than gems. Could the capstone's disappearance be tied to this high-stakes barter system? Even the pyramid's interior hides trade secrets. The so-called air shafts contain traces of pollen from Lebanese cedar, suggesting they once held wooden rods shipped from Byblos, a key trading partner. These weren't just vents, they may have been ritual conduits for sacred materials, blending commerce with cosmology. From the cedar barges of Phoenicia to the gold trails of Nubia, the pyramid stands as a silent ledger of ancient globalization. Every stone, every tool, every fleck of mortar whispers the same truth. This wasn't just a tomb. It was the beating heart of a trade empire, proof that 4,000 years ago, the world was far more connected than we ever imagined. And if we listen closely, its stones might just reveal the untold stories of the merchants, sailors, and miners who made the impossible possible, one block at a time. The pyramids of Egypt don't stand alone. They are part of a vast, interconnected web of alignments that stretch across the desert like a celestial blueprint. Take the three great pyramids of Giza. At first glance, they seem randomly placed, but their positions form a near-perfect diagonal line mirroring the stars of Orion's belt. The smallest pyramid, Menkora, is slightly offset, just like the dimmest star in Orion's trio. This isn't just artistic license, it's mathematical precision. The angles between the pyramids match the angular distances between those stars with an error margin of less than half a degree. But the real shocker: this alignment isn't unique to Giza. Venture south to Dosha and you'll find the bent pyramid and the red pyramid positioned in a way that echoes the same stellar pattern. Draw lines between them, and they form a triangle that mirrors the constellation Leo as it appeared in the sky 4,500 years ago. Even more astonishing, the pyramids of Abu Sir, often overlooked by tourists, align with the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky and the celestial embodiment of the goddess Isis. These aren't isolated coincidences, they're threads in a grand astronomical tapestry woven into the landscape with purpose. The significance of these alignments goes far beyond symbolism. Ancient Egyptians believed the pharaoh's soul would journey through the heavens, joining the gods in the afterlife. By mirroring constellations on the ground, the pyramids acted as terrestrial anchors, launch pads for the soul's ascent. The bent pyramid's unusual angle, for example, aligns with the star Thuban, the North Pole's guiding light during the Old Kingdom. Step inside at dawn during the winter solstice, and sunlight floods its inner chamber, illuminating hieroglyphs that speak of the ladder to the sky. But the most provocative theory involves the Nile itself. The river wasn't just a water source, it was the earthly mirror of the Milky Way. Pyramids built along its western bank formed a reflection of the celestial river, with key structures marking constellations in this mirrored cosmos. The Pyramid of Meidum, often called the Collapsed Pyramid, sits at a bend in the Nile that aligns with the star Aldebaran, while the Pyramid of Hawara marks the position of the Pleiades cluster. Together, they create a map of the heavens so precise, it suggests the Egyptians didn't just observe the stars, they recreated them in stone. why go to such lengths? Because to the ancients, alignment wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about power. By binding their monuments to the cosmos, they ensured the pharaoh's eternal reign in both this world and the next. Every pyramid, every angle, every carefully calculated position was a declaration. The boundaries between earth and sky were meant to be crossed, and if we follow these alignments today, we're not just tracing ancient architecture, we're walking the pharaoh's path to the stars. Before the smooth slopes of Giza, before the Great Pyramid's perfect geometry, there was Djoser's Step Pyramid, a jagged, six-tiered monument that rewrote the rules of architecture forever. This ancient wonder at Saqqara isn't just the oldest pyramid in Egypt. It's a labyrinth of secrets with underground chambers so vast they've been called the Palace of the Dead. While tourists crane their necks at its towering facade, the real magic lies beneath their feet, a subterranean world of tunnels, galleries, and cryptic inscriptions stretching deeper than a 10-story building. Descend into the pyramid's shadowy underbelly, and you'll find yourself in a maze designed to confuse both tomb raiders and modern archaeologists alike. The central burial chamber sits at the heart of this network, its walls lined with blue faience tiles that shimmer like the night sky, a celestial map for the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. But what's startling isn't the chamber itself, it's the 4-ton granite sarcophagus sealed inside. When archaeologists first breached it in the 1930s, they found it empty, its lid pried open from the inside. No mummy, no grave goods, just a single broken sandal left behind, as if Djoser had stepped out moments before their arrival. The mystery deepens in the surrounding tunnels. Unlike later pyramids with their straight, ceremonial passages, Djoser's corridors twist and turn like a serpent's coils, lined with over 40,000 alabaster jars and stone vessels. Scans reveal these aren't mere storage rooms, they're decoys. Behind false walls, researchers have detected chambers filled with an astonishing array of objects, life-sized statues with hollow eyes meant to house the pharaoh's car spirit, heaps of precious jewelry intentionally smashed to release their spiritual essence, and even a sealed room containing the mummified remains of Djoser's children, a grim insurance policy for the family's reunion. Afterlife, perhaps the most chilling discovery, came in 2020, when ground-penetrating radar uncovered a previously unknown shaft descending nearly 100 feet below the pyramid's base. At its bottom lies a rectangular chamber lined with sheets of pure copper, a metal so rare in Djoser's era it was considered divine. The walls bear inscriptions warning of doors that must never open, and the air inside tests positive for traces of mercury vapor, a substance the ancients associated with portals to the underworld. Some scholars believe this could be the legendary House of Gold, mentioned in later texts, a hidden sanctum where the pharaoh's soul underwent final transformation before ascending to the stars. Yet the Step Pyramid's greatest secret might be its very design. The 6 tiers weren't just architectural innovation, they symbolized the pharaoh's stairway to heaven, each level representing a step closer to eternal divinity. Hidden within the masonry are narrow shafts aligned with key stars Sirius, Orion, and the never-setting circumpolar stars that would have illuminated inner chambers during solstices and equinoxes. Unlike Giza's static celestial alignments, Djoser's pyramid was a living, breathing calendar in stone, its shadows marking sacred dates like the Nile's annual flood. What makes this pyramid truly revolutionary, though, is what it tells us about the minds behind it. The architect Imhotep, history's first-named genius, didn't just build a tomb, he engineered a machine for resurrection. Every corridor, every chamber, every hidden niche was part of a grand ritual blueprint designed to guide Djoser through the perils of the underworld. From the labyrinth that mirrored the chaotic waters of creation to the celestial alignments that synced with the pharaoh's spiritual ascent, this was more than a monument. It was the first draft of eternity, a prototype for every pyramid that followed. and as long as its chambers remain half-explored, its whispers will keep drawing us back, urging us to dig deeper into the darkness where time itself began. The stones that built the pyramids weren't just pulled from the ground beneath them, they were hauled across deserts and rivers, handpicked from quarries with almost supernatural precision. Take the gleaming white Chora limestone that once encased the Great Pyramid, transforming it into a mirror-like beacon visible for miles. These blocks didn't come from Giza's local bedrock, but were mined over 8 miles away on the Nile's eastern bank, where the stone was finer and more reflective. Workers cut each block with copper chisels, then floated them westward on barges during the annual flood, when the Nile's swollen waters turned the desert into a temporary highway. But here's what's astonishing. The Chora limestone wasn't just chosen for its beauty. When polished, it acted like a giant solar reflector, aligning with the Egyptians' belief that the pyramid was a ramp for the sun god Ra's daily journey, a literal staircase of light. Then there's the granite, the backbone of the king's chamber and its towering sarcophagus. These rust-colored slabs came from Aswan, over 500 miles upstream, where quarries still bear the scars of ancient extraction. The logistics defy belief. Each 80-ton block was pried from the bedrock using wooden wedges soaked in water, a technique that exploited the wood's expansion to fracture the stone with surgical precision. But transporting them was another matter. Papyrus records from Wadi al-Jarf describe a flotilla of specially built barges, some over 200 feet long, reinforced with rope lashings to prevent buckling under the weight. During the flood season, these barges rode the Nile's currents like slow-moving islands, guided by pilots who understood the river's hidden eddies and sandbars. When the water receded, workers hauled the final miles on sledges, pouring water ahead of them to reduce friction, a trick confirmed by wall paintings and modern physics experiments showing damp sand cuts pulling force by half. But the real enigma lies in the mortar binding these stones. Unlike modern cement, this ancient adhesive wasn't just functional, it was alchemical. Samples from the pyramid's core reveal a blend of burnt gypsum, natron salts, and something no one expected, crushed diorite. This volcanic rock, harder than steel, was pulverized and mixed into the mortar as a reinforcing agent, a technique centuries ahead of its time. Even stranger, the mortar's chemical signature changes layer by layer. Lower courses contain silt from the Nile's annual flooding, while higher sections incorporate desert sand rich in quartz, suggesting the builders adjusted the formula to compensate for altitude and load-bearing stress. Modern engineers have tried replicating it, but their mixes crumble within decades, while the pyramid's mortar has endured for millennia. The most startling revelation, though, comes from the basalt paving stones around the pyramid's base. This jet-black volcanic rock wasn't just hauled, it was melted. Recent spectrographic analysis found glassy streaks in the stone's microstructure, evidence of exposure to extreme heat. Some researchers propose the Egyptians used focused sunlight or combustion chambers to soften the rock for shaping, a technique hinted at in temple texts describing fire that obeys the chisel. Others point to the basalt's origin in the distant Fayum Depression, where ancient mines sit beside fossilized whale bones, an eerie reminder that the stones themselves are relics of a landscape that once lay underwater. From the solar reflecting Chora limestone to the volcano-forged basalt, every material was chosen not just for utility, but for its place in the Egyptians' cosmic worldview. The pyramid wasn't just built, it was composed, each stone a note in a symphony of earth, water, and fire. And if the quarries are the prologue to this story, the pyramid itself is the epic written in blocks that crossed deserts, rivers, and time itself to reach their final resting place. The Great Pyramid isn't just an architectural marvel, it's a mathematical time capsule, encoding principles of geometry and astronomy so advanced they predate formal mathematical texts by millennia. Consider this, the pyramid's base perimeter divided by its original height yields a value close to pi, a 3.14159 accurate to 4 decimal places. This isn't a rough approximation. It's a precision that would have required the builders to understand the relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter, centuries before Greek mathematicians like Archimedes formalized the concept. But here's what's truly baffling: Egyptian texts from the same era only reference pi as 3.16, a cruder estimate used for everyday calculations. So how did the pyramid's architects achieve such accuracy without leaving a paper trail? The answer might lie in the pyramid's very shape. Its slope angle of 51.85 degrees doesn't just provide structural stability, it embeds the golden ratio, a geometric constant found in everything from seashells to galaxies. Measure the slant height against half its base, and the ratio aligns perfectly with 1.618, the so-called divine proportion. Skeptics argue this could be coincidence, but the math grows harder to dismiss when you examine the pyramid's three-dimensional geometry. The ratio of its base area to the area of its four triangular sides mirrors the golden ratio again, a feat requiring spatial reasoning far beyond simple arithmetic. Then there's the pyramid's alignment with true north, a directional precision achieved without compasses or modern tools. The sides deviate by just 3/60ths of a degree, surpassing the accuracy of the Greenwich Observatory. Ancient engineers likely used the stars for alignment, tracking the circumpolar stars' movements to bisect angles, but the brilliance lies in their adjustment for Earth's curvature. The pyramid's base isn't a perfect square. Each side bows inward slightly, compensating for the planet's spherical shape to distribute weight evenly. This subtle concavity, just a fraction of an inch over 13 acres, suggests the builders understood Earth wasn't flat millennia before Eratosthenes calculated its circumference. Perhaps the most startling mathematical secret lies in the pyramid's latitude. Its location at 29.979 degrees north aligns with the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as coincidence, since meters weren't an Egyptian unit of measure. Yet the correlation persists when converting to cubits, hinting at a possible lost system of measurement tied to celestial constants. Even the pyramid's internal chambers resonate with mathematical harmony. The king's chamber's dimensions form a perfect 2-to-1 rectangle, while the grand gallery's corbelled ceiling follows a Fibonacci-like progression, each tier's angle optimized for weight distribution. What does this all mean? The pyramid's architects didn't just use math, they worshipped it, embedding sacred geometry into every block. Whether these constants were intentional or the byproduct of celestial observation, one truth remains: these builders operated on a level of sophistication that challenges our timeline of human knowledge. And if they could encode such precision in stone, what other secrets might still be hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right mind to unlock them? The Great Pyramid of Giza has long been labeled the ultimate royal tomb. But what if that's just the surface story? For centuries, archaeologists clung to the burial narrative, pointing to sarcophagi and funerary texts as proof. Yet mounting evidence suggests these towering monuments might have served purposes far beyond housing the dead. Picture this: a structure so precisely aligned with celestial events that it functions as a colossal stone calendar, its corridors tracking solstices and equinoxes with laser-like accuracy. The pyramid's descending passage, for instance, captures the winter solstice sunrise like a sunbeam sliding down a ruler, illuminating hidden markers only visible on that single day each year. This isn't just tomb design, it's astronomical engineering. Then there's the theory of the pyramid as a ceremonial powerhouse. The grand gallery's soaring, corbelled walls aren't merely architectural flair, they're acoustic marvels. Chant certain tones in this space, and the sound amplifies into resonant frequencies that match human brainwave patterns during deep meditation. Ancient texts describe priests using harmonic spells to commune with gods, while modern experiments show these vibrations can temporarily alter consciousness. Could the pyramid have been a giant ritual device where initiates underwent sonic journeys to other states of awareness? The absence of traditional burial evidence takes on new meaning when you consider the pyramid's subterranean chamber, a flooded, unfinished space radiating strange electromagnetic anomalies. Some researchers propose it was a primitive geopolymer reactor, using water and mineral-rich limestone to generate energy fields for sacred rites. Perhaps the most radical theory reimagines the pyramid as a cosmic antenna. The quartz-laden granite in the king's chamber possesses piezoelectric properties, meaning it generates electricity when subjected to pressure like the vibrations of Earth's natural resonance. The pyramid's shape, when scaled to modern experiments, funnels electromagnetic energy into its internal chambers. Even the so-called air shafts align with stars not for symbolic reasons, but as waveguides for celestial energy. Arab chroniclers like al-Masudi wrote of a crystal capstone that collected starlight, while Tesla himself studied the pyramid's geometry for wireless energy transmission. Modern scans revealing metallic nodules in the shafts add fuel to the fire. Could these have been conductive components of a lost technology? But the most haunting possibility is that the pyramid's true purpose was multidimensional. Its mathematical encoding of pi, the golden ratio, and the speed of light suggests it might be a time capsule, a deliberate effort to preserve advanced knowledge across millennia. The pyramid's latitude coordinates match Earth's axial tilt, while its dimensions mirror the planet's curvature. This isn't just architecture, it's geodetic data etched in stone. Whether it was a resurrection machine, an energy harvester, or a celestial library, one truth emerges: the pyramid's silence isn't emptiness, it's a question waiting for us to ask better ones. And until we do, its secrets will keep dancing just beyond the light of our understanding. From hidden chambers aligned with distant stars to mathematical codes embedded in stone, the 50 secrets we've uncovered today aren't just curiosities, they're seismic shifts in how we see these ancient marvels. The pyramids weren't static tombs, they were celestial calculators, energy conduits, and perhaps even bridges between worlds. Every precision-cut block, every star-aligned shaft, every whisper of lost technology forces us to ask, how much of history's dominant narrative is incomplete? If these stones could talk, they might tell us that the line between myth and science is thinner than we ever imagined. Think about the implications. The Great Pyramid's dimensions encode the speed of light and Earth's circumference, numbers supposedly discovered millennia later. The Sphinx's water erosion hints at a timeline that predates recorded civilization. The missing capstone, the echoing chambers, the metallic artifacts in hidden shafts, all of it paints a picture of a society with knowledge we're still struggling to decode. Even mainstream archaeology can't ignore the anomalies anymore. The voids detected by cosmic ray scans, the advanced acoustic properties of the king's chamber, the global pyramid parallels, none of these fit neatly into the textbooks. So where does this leave us? At the edge of a paradigm shift. The pyramids challenge us to rethink not just ancient Egypt, but the very nature of human progress. Maybe some secrets weren't meant to stay buried. Maybe they were left as breadcrumbs, waiting for future generations to piece together a story far grander than we've been told. Now it's your turn. Which of these revelations shocked you the most? Do you think there are even bigger secrets still waiting beneath the sands? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive. And if you're hungry for more mysteries that rewrite history, hit subscribe and join us as we keep peeling back the layers of time. The past isn't dead, it's just patiently waiting for us to listen. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the greatest truths are hidden in plain sight.